Chapter 487. Valley Head Nya and Elder Zhang were standing outside the alchemy room with resentment. From time to time, they would turn back to see what Zhang Xiaohua was doing. However, they knew that this method was extremely shameless. It was just that their hearts were itching and it was hard for them to control themselves. Inside the alchemy room, Zhang Xiaohua used the first few incantations into the alchemy furnace and the earth fire. When the temperature of the alchemy furnace rose, she waved her hand and the jade box containing the scarlet firegrass opened. Then, with a move of her finger, the scarlet firegrass was split into two halves. Her right hand waved again, and half of the scarlet firegrass flew out of the jade box and into the alchemy furnace. At the same time, the jade box was closed. After the scarlet flame grass was thrown into the cauldron, it was refined into a fist-sized medicinal liquid not long after. It kept rolling in the cauldron, and thin wisps of smoke flew out from the medicinal liquid. These were the impurities in the medicinal liquid. Zhang Xiaohua knew that although the scarlet firegrass was a rare medicinal herb, it contained a lot of yuan qi. Correspondingly, because it had been growing for a long time, the yuan qi contained a lot of impurities. It was very difficult to refine it out. It was impossible for ordinary martial arts cauldrons to obtain pure scarlet firegrass liquid. Even if she refined it like this, it would take her a day and a night. Looking at the medicinal liquid in the alchemy furnace that kept shrinking and changing into various shapes, Zhang Xiaohua frowned slightly. In a while, Valley Head Nya and Elder Zhang would definitely come in to see. How would she explain to them that the medicinal liquid was floating in midair? After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua chuckled and started another incantation. The fist-sized medicinal liquid gradually turned into a pancake and slowly sank to the bottom of the alchemy furnace. It was just like the pancake that Gua Sufei had placed on the stove in the Guozhuang house. Sigh, in a moment of desperation, Zhang Xiaohua's mind was only filled with the pancake that her mother had placed in her bag when she left the Guozhuang house. Looking left and right at the alchemy furnace, there was nothing unusual. Zhang Xiaohua then walked to the entrance of the alchemy room. Just as she was about to greet them, she heard a strange voice outside. "Father!" "Elder Zhang, why are the two of you waiting outside the alchemy room? Where is Brother Rin? Is he not in the alchemy room? Wasn't that Nya Qinyu?" Elder Zhang's face was full of bitterness and hatred as he said, "Little you, you're finally here." Nya Qinyu asked curiously, "Elder Zhang, what are you talking about? Little Yu has been helping Big Brother Rin transcribe for the past few days, and is extremely tired. I want to have a good rest these few days, but Father said yesterday that he was going to refine the Crimson Flame pill today. I just woke up and immediately came over to help you guys." Following which he smiled and said, "Big Brother Rin has always been an early riser. He must have gone to the valley to cultivate. Let's wait for a while. Anyway, it's still early." Valley Head Nya looked at his precious daughter and bitterly smiled. "Yes, the time is still early, but there is no such thing as time to concoct dawn. Plus, picking the herbs should be done early." Ouch! Nya Qinyu covered her mouth and said, "I forgot Daddy's instructions. The herbs must be picked before the dew disappears." However, she changed the topic and said with a smile, as the ancient said, "Theory must be combined with practice. I've only picked common herbs, so why would there be so many taboos?" Then she felt that something was wrong and asked, "Didn't Daddy make an appointment with Big Brother Rin?" Big Brother Rin should be in the pill room at this time. At this moment, Zhang Xiaohua walked out of the pill room with a smile and said, "Little fishy Nya, you're here too?" Nya Qinyu smiled and said, "Good morning, Big Brother Rin. Why aren't you inviting us in? Father and Elder Zhang have already gathered the herbs and brought them here." "Ha ha ha!" Zhang Xiaohua laughed and said, "Then please come in." Valley Head Nya and Elder Zhang were pleasantly surprised. "We can go in now." Zhang Xiaohua nodded slightly, and the two of them immediately strode forward, taking the lead to rush in. Nya Qinyu was puzzled, but she wasn't a talkative person. She accompanied Zhang Xiaohua into the pill room, slowly. There was a faint medicinal fragrance in the pill room. It wasn't strong and was much fainter than the previously refined fasting pill, all-dispelling pill, and new snow pill. Seeing that Daddy and Elder Zhang didn't ask anything and directly rushed to the small pill furnace above the earth fire, Nie Qinyu couldn't help but ask in astonishment, "Big Brother Rin, you've already started refining pills?" Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, "Yes, we've already started long before you came." But Nie Qinyu was about to ask something when she heard Elder Zhang call out, "Ren Xiaoxia, please come over." Zhang Xiaohua quickly walked over and smiled. "Elder Zhang, what's the problem?" Elder Zhang pointed at the puddle of medicinal liquid at the bottom of the pill furnace and asked, "Nephew Rin doesn't use water to refine pills. Why is there so much water at the bottom of the pill furnace?" Zhang Xiaohua knew that using martial arts to refine pills had the same effect as using immortal arts to refine impurities. However, the refining method was too tyrannical and directly used fire to turn the impurities into ashes. At the same time, it also inevitably lost a lot of the essence within. However, immortal arts turned medicinal herbs into medicinal liquid and used a formation to protect it. This was the gentle way. Not only could it remove as many impurities as possible, it could also better retain the essence within. Rejuvenation Valley's water decoction method should also have this layer of meaning. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "Elder Zhang, take a closer look. That's not water, but the juice of the scarlet firegrass. I didn't add anything else." Valley Head Nya was greatly shocked and said, "Nephew Rin, you can actually maintain the medicinal liquid in this state at such a high temperature and not turn it into air and fly out. How did you do it?" Zhang Xiaohua rubbed her nose and said, "Uncle Nya, forgive me for not being able to answer this question." Valley Head Nya and Elder Zhang were both disappointed. They looked at each other and then focused on the puddle of liquid. At this time, Nie Qinyu also walked to the front of the pill furnace and stuck her head out to look at the situation inside. She thought of the question just now and said with a smile, "I started refining pills a long time ago, but when I came, Father—" Before she finished speaking, Valley Head Nya seemed to have realized something and suddenly raised his head to ask, "Nephew Rin, you just said that this juice is from the scarlet firegrass?" Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, "Yes, Uncle Nya, is there a problem?" But in the pill recipe, didn't it clearly state that the scarlet firegrass and crimson pearl grass have to be added together and that the two main medicinal properties have to be slowly refined? Valley Head Nya asked somewhat anxiously. Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand and said, "Uncle Nya, don't worry. I have confidence. This scarlet firegrass juice still needs to be refined for a day and a night. I can only put the crimson pearl grass in at this time tomorrow." "What?" The three people at the side were all shocked and said in unison, "Just refining this scarlet firegrass takes a day and a night." Zhang Xiaohua suddenly remembered that the formula for the crimson flame pill did not specify the time needed to refine it. He had been busy with the matter of the array these past few days and had neglected this problem. The elixirs refined by Rejuvenation Valley were extremely ordinary, and the elixirs he had refined recently were at most a meal's worth of time. He had never refined an elixir as time-consuming as the crimson flame pill. Of course, it would be surprising if he said it out loud. After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua explained, "Elder Zhang, Valley Master Nya, in the recipe for the crimson flame pill, it only states the steps to concoct the pill, but it doesn't state the specific time. The concoction method in my sect is different from the previous one. It emphasizes on the word gentle, which means to use a gentle flame to produce fine work. Therefore, the time taken is much longer." Nie Qinyu asked curiously, "Then, Big Brother Rin, how long will it take?" Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "It's not done one by one. After a while, you can put the crimson pearl grass and the other herbs into the pill furnace. They will be refined together for a day and a night." "Oh, I see." The three people sighed. This was understandable. However, the next words shocked them again. "However, After refining, the juice still needs to be nourished in the pill furnace for 13 days. Zhang Xiaohua said indifferently. This. The three people did not know what to say. Yes, the alchemy of the immortal Tao had long been lost. Although the alchemy of the martial Tao had the saying of pill nurturing, as time passed, this term was gradually forgotten. At this time in Rejuvenation Valley, pill nurturing was nothing more than rolling the muddy medicinal dregs into a round ball. However, before they could react, Zhang Xiaohua said again, I'm sorry, but I have to put in the crimson pearl grass. Please wait at the entrance of the pill room. Nia Qinyu was stunned and blurted out, Big brother in, just put in your medicine. Haven't I seen you do it a dozen times? What's there to avoid? Zhang Xiaohua looked at Valley Head Nia and said, Little you, go out with Uncle Nia first and let him explain to you. This pill furnace needs to be filled quickly. There can't be any delay. When he said, there can't be any delay, Valley Head Nia and Elder Zhang became anxious and pulled the clueless Nia Qinyu out of the pill room. After the three of them left, Zhang Xiaohua squinted her eyes and looked at the medicinal liquid in the pill furnace. She cast a spell, and the crimson pearl grass turned into a round ball and floated in the air. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the rolling medicinal liquid and waited for a while before adding half of the crimson pearl grass into it. The moment the crimson pearl grass entered the crimson pearl grass, there was a reaction. The spherical medicinal liquid suddenly expanded as if it was about to explode. Zhang Xiaohua was not in a hurry. She cast a spell with both hands, and her vital qi flowed freely into the spell. When the spell was cast into the medicinal liquid immediately rolled like a child's toy in the pill furnace. After a long while, it finally calmed down and floated quietly in the pill furnace. Zhang Xiaohua knew that although it looked peaceful, the fire-attributed crimson pearl grass and the water-attributed crimson pearl grass were quietly fusing in the medicinal liquid, reinforcing and restraining each other. However, the sphere was the original form of the medicinal liquid. She did not know if changing it to a pancake shape would affect the fusion of the two main ingredients. After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua released her divine sense and observed the changes in the medicinal liquid. She then cast a spell and slowly sank the medicinal liquid to the bottom, changing it to a pancake shape. Fortunately, although the external shape of the medicinal liquid had changed, the internal fusion was still the same. There were no other changes because of the external shape. Zhang Xiaohua spread out the medicinal liquid and almost touched the sweat on her forehead. Was there anyone in the immortal Tao who could refine pills like her? Zan Yi Yi, come and read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. -3. Chapter 488. Outside the alchemy room, Valley Head Nia had already told Nia Qinyu about Zhang Xiaohua's unreasonable request. Nia Qinyu, on the contrary, was not as shocked and surprised as Elder Zhang. She had followed Zhang Xiaohua all the way back to Don't Worry City and found too many strange things about Zhang Xiaohua. Although Zhang Xiaohua tried to cover it up, the three of them were together every day, and Nia Qinyu was very concerned about Zhang Xiaohua's actions. Even if Zhang Xiaohua frowned or made a special expression, Nia Qinyu would try her best to guess. How could she not see some clues? However, Nia Qinyu was very smart. She had always seen it with her eyes but never remembered it in her heart, let alone tell little Orange. Now that she heard her father's words, she only nodded slightly and looked towards the alchemy room. She said worriedly, Will Big Brother Rin be okay? He has to refine for 14 days. Can he bear it alone? Elder Zhang's eyes widened as he looked at this little girl. He shook his head and sympathetically said to Valley Head Nia, Handsome Nia, oh handsome Nia, you've suffered a great loss. This girl's personality is biased towards outsiders. You've given birth to 3 daughters in a row and raised them until now, but none of them thought about you. What can you do? What can you do? Nia Qinyu covered her mouth and laughed. It's still better than some elders who have no children. Valley Head Nia scolded. Little you, don't be rude. Elder Zhang did not care and said, That depends on how you think. If you don't think about your own father like you, it's useless to have you. Nya, Qinyu said seriously. Elder Zhang, this has nothing to do with who is biased. I just feel that Big Brotherin must have his reasons for doing this. There's no need to force him. How could Elder Zhang not understand this logic? He had also thought it through earlier. However, when he saw that the other party was mysteriously refining pills in the pill room while he waited bitterly outside, anyone would involuntarily feel a little resentment. This was why he had repeatedly vented it. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua had already walked out. When he heard the conversation between Nie Qinyu and Elder Zhang, he could only sigh in his heart. Little Fishy was so concerned about him. She supported all of his decisions without reservation. She did not ask the reason for his actions at all, nor did she complain about not allowing him to watch. She was only worried about how hard it would be for him to continuously refine pills. This kind of care. Sigh. Zhang Xiaohua himself also had an indescribable feeling in his heart. If he was not moved at all, even his own heels would not believe it. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua appear at the entrance of the alchemy room, Valley Master Nya and Elder Zhang's faces lit up. They passed by each other and rushed inside. Their figures were graceful and their movements were swift. There was nothing to say. Only Nie Qinyu stood there motionless. She said uneasily, Big Brother Rin, I didn't expect refining this crimson flame pill to be so troublesome and to trouble you for an entire 14 days. Nie Qinyu moved her lips and continued, I thank Big Brother Rin on behalf of Rejuvenation Valley. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and looked at this girl who was not very beautiful. He said softly, Little you, you're treating me like an outsider. I used your Rejuvenation Valley's alchemy room and used your Rejuvenation Valley's medicinal herbs to cultivate my own alchemy skills. In the end, I still have to share some of the pills refined. No matter what, I'm taking advantage of you. Should I also salute you and thank Rejuvenation Valley? Nie Qinyu spat and said, Then why don't you bow and thank me? What kind of stupid rules are you making to make Father and Elder Zhang depressed? Zhang Xiaohua did not explain and said, Let's go and take a look. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. When Nie Qinyu heard this, her heart felt warm. She nodded and followed Zhang Xiaohua into the alchemy room. Inside the alchemy room and inside the alchemy furnace, there were no changes compared to before. The only difference was that the temperature of the earth fire was much higher. Valley Master Nye and Elder Zhang stared at the big cake but could not see anything. It was just some medicinal juice that was churning inside with a gulu-gulu sound. It was no different from the decoction of Rejuvenation Valley's pills. The only difference was that the pool of medicinal liquid was much smaller and appeared very strange. Nie Qinyu was even worse. She looked at it for a long time without saying anything. Her face was full of confusion. Indeed, this was very different from the alchemy techniques that she had learned. It almost subverted her previous understanding. However, her eyes soon became clear and there was a kind of fervent expression. She whispered, Big Brother Rin, I don't know if my question is appropriate. If it's not, just pretend that I didn't say anything. Zhang Xiaohua was very puzzled. Didn't he just say that if she had any questions she could ask? Why was she still hesitating now? Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, Little you, just say it. I definitely won't blame you. Nie Qinyu said somewhat embarrassedly, This alchemy technique, can I learn it? That's right. Valley Master Nya and Elder Zhang's eyes lit up. Of course, if you don't let us see, can you let Nie Qinyu enter beta school to learn this alchemy technique? Zhang Xiaohua was also stunned. He never thought that Nie Qinyu would ask such a question that could solve all the problems. This little girl's brain was not covered. There was indeed something different about it. Elder Zhang blinked at Valley Master Nya and hinted, You're not bad, and your daughter is not bad. Look at her ambiguous relationship with this boy. Maybe it will work out. Why don't you quickly add fuel to the fire? Valley Master Nya saw that Zhang Xiaohua did not immediately refuse. Instead, he was thinking about it. He hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Nephew Rin, little Yu's aptitude is not good. She has not been able to practice martial arts and has not joined other sections. She has only practiced some of the martial arts passed down in my Rejuvenation Valley. She has not achieved a small success. If it's possible, can you put in a few good words in front of your sect's chief?" And then he tilted his head and looked at the burning earth fire. He gritted his teeth and said, "If you can learn a little self-defense technique or this alchemy technique, my Rejuvenation Valley will be very grateful." Zhang Xiaohua was somewhat at a loss. He had never thought of passing this immortal cultivation technique to others, especially in this environment where there was no rich qi of heaven and earth. His own cultivation was also very accidental. He had gone through lightning to temper the first strand of vital qi in his body. Although the qi of heaven and earth in Rejuvenation Valley was much more than in the medicinal field of Huanshu Manor, it was still far from the requirements of the Carefree Heart Sutra. Even if he taught the Carefree Heart Sutra to Nie Qinyu, it was almost impossible for her to succeed in practicing it. Taking a step back, even if Nie Qinyu could learn it without a primordial stone like his Crouching Ox Stone, she would not be able to advance beyond the first level of qi refining, let alone practice the technique. Sigh. Nie Qinyu's request was really a headache. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua was still silent, Valley Head Nie said, "Nephew Ren, it should be inevitable that Beta School and Rejuvenation Valley will form an alliance. I've already told you about this before. If you return to the sect and inform the sect leader, he will probably know a little about the Yuli Alliance. He will still give us face. Even if you can't learn such a profound technique, I think it's still possible to enter Beta School as a disciple." Valley Head Nie's few good speculations left Zhang Xiaohua speechless. Nonsense, he was the only one in Beta School. Oh, and that nephew of his, Zhang Byron, who had just passed his 100th day. How was he supposed to answer? Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua was not replying for a long time, Nie Qinyu rolled her eyes and said pitifully, "Big Brother Rin, are you really not going to show mercy to girls? I'm already begging you so bitterly, and you're not even going to answer me?" Hearing such a soft, pleading voice, Zhang Xiaohua was sweating profusely. He hurriedly said, "Stop, stop, hurry up and stop." Nie Qinyu's face was full of pride. She smiled and said, "What does Big Brother Rin say?" Zhang Xiaohua pretended to be disdainful and said, "Valley Head Nie is here. You can't pretend to be pitiful. I haven't seen you act coquettishly all the way here. Now that you've done this, I'm covered in goosebumps." Then he shrugged and said, "Little Yu Er's aptitude for martial arts isn't good, and she's already past the best age to practice martial arts. It's really difficult for her to have any achievements in martial arts. Moreover, the sect has its own people in charge of accepting disciples. How can I interfere?" But when he saw Nie Qinyu's aggrieved look, he couldn't help but think, the Carefree Heart Sutra is the Misty School's qi cultivation method. If it's taught to outsiders, it's best to ask the people in the Misty School. But now that the Misty School has encountered such an unforeseen event, I can only act when I return to the incense cult. In fact, he neglected the fact that he had already given the Carefree Heart Sutra to his sister-in-law so that she could teach it to Zhang Byron. At that time, did he consider the opinions of the Misty School? Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua added, "Even if I want to greet the elders in the sect, it will have to wait until I return from the incense cult." Nie Qinyu was a little impulsive and said it without thinking. When she heard Zhang Xiaohua's initial rejection, she regretted saying it out loud. She knew it was impossible, so why did she say it out loud and make others look down on her? But when she heard the last sentence, she was ecstatic. She had always been eager to excel, but her body was weak and she couldn't practice martial arts well. It had always been a pity. Zhang Xiaohua wasn't much older than her, but her martial arts cultivation was ridiculously high. Presumably, the Beta School had its own unique way of teaching disciples. If she could enter the Beta School, perhaps, thinking about it made her feel warm, and she couldn't help but say in surprise, "Big Brother Rin, don't lie to me." Just like Nie Qinyu, after saying the last sentence, Zhang Xiaohua regretted it. Wasn't she looking for trouble? However, looking at Nie Qianyu's surprise and thinking about how good she was to her, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but sigh and say, "I'm not lying. It's just that I'm not confident. So I can't promise you casually." Nie Qianyu smiled and said, "As long as Big Brotherin agrees, I'll be happy whether it succeeds or not. Who knows? I might even become your little junior sister." Zhang Xiaohua rolled her eyes and said, "In your dreams. You'll probably have to call me Martial Uncle." Nie Qianyu looked disappointed and said anxiously, "That can't be, Big Brotherin. Is that really the case? What do you think?" Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. -3. Chapter 489. When Nie Qianyu saw Zhang Xiaohua acting like this, her face was filled with anger. Just as she was about to speak, Zhang Xiaohua frowned and said, I forgot about refining pills. Could the three of you please leave for a moment and come back in after I'm done?" Nie Qianyu had no choice but to follow Valley Head Nie and Elder Zhang out of the pill room. As soon as they left the pill room, Elder Zhang gave Nie Qianyu a thumbs up and said, "Little you is really smart. You actually thought of becoming a disciple. This old man never thought of this." He then said to Valley Head Nie, "Valley Head, now you know the benefits of having a daughter. You were able to get this mysterious pill refining method to Rejuvenation Valley without any effort." Valley Head Nie shook his head and said, "Elder Zhang's thinking is too simple. Even if little you enters beta school, let's not talk about how long it will take her to reach Nephew Ren's level. Besides, if she becomes a disciple, she has to follow their rules. Whether or not she can refine pills for us is another matter. It's better not to have too much hope." How could Elder Zhang not know? He was just joking. Within the pill room, Zhang Xiaohua was concentrating on looking at the medicinal liquid that had already reverted to a spherical shape. She inserted several spells from the jade slip into it and carefully observed the changes within. She saw that the scarlet flame grass and the crimson pearl grass had reacted more intensely than before. This spell had the effect of promoting it. Zhang Xiaohua stroked her chin and formed a spell with her other hand, as if she wanted to discover something from within. After a long while, she sent the medicinal liquid into the furnace and walked out. This time, Valley Head Nie and Elder Zhang weren't as active as the previous 2 times. They presumably knew that no matter how fast they ran, Zhang Xiaohua wouldn't let them see anything from the pill furnace. Sure enough, the pill furnace, earth fire, and medicinal liquid were the same as before. Only the medicinal fragrance in the pill room was still faint. At this time, Nie Qianyu unconsciously frowned and asked softly, "Big Brotherin, why is the medicinal fragrance different when you refine pills? I remember that, some time ago, as long as you refined pills, the medicinal fragrance would assail our nostrils. But now," Elder Zhang and Valley Master Nie also suddenly came to a realization. They were only concerned about the process of refining the pill and had forgotten about this detail. Moreover, many ancient records did not even mention the medicinal fragrance. They only took it for granted that the medicinal fragrance had to be rich to be a truly good pill. Elder Zhang asked with concern, "Ran Xiaoxia, could it be that the technique is wrong?" Zhang Xiaohua had compared the martial Dao and immortal Dao's alchemy, and she had some insights in her heart. She smiled and said, "I don't know the reason behind it, but I vaguely feel that the medicinal fragrance is naturally emitted by the medicinal effects of the medicinal herbs. If the medicinal fragrance is emitted too much, will it reduce the medicinal effects? For example, if this medicinal herb is stored in an ordinary wooden box, the medicinal fragrance will be very strong no matter where it is placed. After a long time, it will lose its effect. Only when it is stored in a jade box, the medicinal fragrance will not leak out and it can be maintained for a long time." Zhang Xiaohua did not tell them about the array outside the medicinal liquid and the 5 elements inside the pill. She only threw out this simple comparison, which could be considered as a simple explanation that was easy to understand. The other 3 were suddenly enlightened. This theory was really easy to understand. But why was it not written in the alchemy books? Sigh. Only Zhang Xiaohua, who had become a novice and completely relied on herself to fumble around, could have such an understanding. Nia, Qinyu immediately asked. Then, according to Big Brother Rin, the fainter the medicinal fragrance of the pill, the more effective it is. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and smiled. Except for pills that have been stored for a long time and have completely lost their medicinal effects. Nia, Qinyu spat and said, "Of course I know this." Not long after, the entire alchemy room fell into a dead silence. Yes, even when faced with a pool of medicinal liquid, there was no gurgling. Nothing could be seen and nothing could be understood. So how could there be any questions to ask? After a while, Valley Master Nia smiled and said, "Nephew Rin, I still have some miscellaneous matters to attend to in the valley, so I won't be here to observe. Nephew Rin, please take care of it." After he finished speaking, he cupped his hands and left the alchemy room. After a while, Elder Zhang, who was originally the most enthusiastic, also wanted to give up. He muttered, "Young hero Rin, I suddenly remembered that I haven't fed my big white yet. I reckon that it's hungry now. I have to hurry and take a look. You go ahead with your work. I'll come back tomorrow to take a look." After he finished speaking, he cupped his hands and ran away without waiting for Zhang Xiaohua to speak. Nia, Qinyu, was the only one left. She looked at Zhang Xiaohua apologetically and silently accompanied her. However, after a while, Nia Qinyu's eyes became a little blurred as she looked at the medicinal liquid. Although she liked being with Zhang Xiaohua very much, she didn't dare to talk to Zhang Xiaohua when faced with this medicinal liquid that didn't change at all. She was afraid of disturbing him while he was refining pills. So how could she not feel sleepy? Upon seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua withdrew her divine sense from the alchemy furnace and asked softly, "What's going on?" "Little you. It's still early, so why are you daydreaming? If you want to do it, then just do it. Why are you alone in the alchemy room with me? How can I face those months of 3-character classic?" Nia, Qinyu, who was originally in a daze, was suddenly teased out of her sleepiness. She spat and said, "It's broad daylight, so why are you talking about a man and a woman alone? I'll just rest here. Let's see who in the Rejuvenation Valley will say no." Zhang Xiaohua was startled and immediately gave her a thumbs up. She said with a smile, "You're indeed the second most powerful person in the Rejuvenation Valley. You're so impressive." Nia Qinyu's face was slightly red. She looked at the medicinal liquid that still didn't change in the alchemy furnace and asked, "Big Brother Rin, has it been like this for the past 10 days?" Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, "Basically, it hasn't changed. There will only be some changes on the last day. Then, we can't watch it on the last day, right?" Nia Qinyu asked very sharply. "That's right," Zhang Xiaohua said without hesitation. "Alas," Nia Qinyu sighed and said, "Father and Elder Zhang will definitely regret it." Zhang Xiaohua shrugged and didn't answer. In any case, she had already made it clear before that no matter what, she couldn't let them see her using spells to control the alchemy furnace. Seeing that Nia Qinyu was somewhat unhappy, Zhang Xiaohua thought for a while and said, "Little fishy Nia, instead of being bored here and not being able to learn anything, why don't you go back and carefully comprehend the 5 elements dye in formation? That's a real thing. Once you learn it, you can use it to protect the Rejuvenation Valley. Haven't you always wanted to rely on your own strength to achieve results that would make others take notice of you? Isn't this the best opportunity?" Nia Qinyu's eyes lit up when she heard this. These words were exactly what she wanted to hear. Thus, she had long forgotten the whispered instructions from Elder Zhang and Valley Master Nia at the entrance of the alchemy room. She stood up and said, "Big Brother Rin, you're right. I'll bring that formation over now and comprehend it in your alchemy room. If there's anything I don't understand, you can immediately answer me." "What?" Zhang Xiaohua almost cried out. "Didn't I just want you to go back? Why do you really want to stay here overnight?" Zhang Xiaohua repeatedly waved her hand and said, "Little fishy Nia, you'd better comprehend it in your own room. I have to concentrate on refining pills here. If you have any questions, it won't be too late to find me after dinner. What do you think?" "But Nia, Chinyu really wanted to say, Big Brother Rin, the people from the fragrant religion are about to arrive. How many more days can you stay in the Rejuvenation Valley? I just want to spend more time with you. Unfortunately, she couldn't bring herself to say such naked words of love. She could only change her words and say, But can't I come over whenever I have a question? Zhang Xiaohua pinched his chin and said with a profound expression, the ancient said, Walk your own path and let others envy you. Although this formation is dead, you're alive. If you encounter a problem, it's best to think about it a few times. Perhaps you'll have your own ideas. You don't have to rely on other people's explanations. Thinking about it on your own is the most practical gain. Moreover, different people have different opinions on the path of formations. It is not necessarily conventional. If you accept it completely without thinking, you will not be able to develop it and surpass it. Alas, in short, he wanted Nie Chinyu to see and think more by herself. She shouldn't disturb him when he was refining pills. How could Nie Chinyu not understand? She only smiled sweetly and said, Big Brother Rin is so talented. I'll definitely learn from you. I'll go back and comprehend it now. After she finished speaking, she rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaohua and walked out of the pill room. After Nie Chinyu left, Zhang Xiaohua heaved a sigh of relief. This world was really peaceful. The feeling of no one watching was really good. Immediately, Zhang Xiaohua made a hand gesture and sent the medicinal liquid back to the center of the pill furnace. Then he made a few more hand gestures, and the entire medicinal liquid started to boil abnormally. After a long while, the medicinal liquid gradually calmed down. Zhang Xiaohua waved his hand and took the grass praying mat beside the bed. He sat cross-legged in front of the pill furnace and released a strand of divine sense to carefully observe the medicinal liquid in the pill furnace. He closed his eyes and prepared to comprehend the incantation of spirit traction. However, after Zhang Xiaohua closed his eyes, he felt as if something was missing, which made him feel uneasy. He frowned and opened his eyes. What greeted him was a few jade boxes beside the pill furnace. Zhang Xiaohua immediately understood. Of course, half of the scarlet firegrass and half of the crimson pearlgrass had not been put into his money pouch. How could he be at ease? After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua took out 2 dark green jade boxes from his money pouch and placed the scarlet firegrass and crimson pearlgrass on the table into the jade boxes. Then he placed a restriction on them. Only then did he feel at ease. At this time, there were still many medicinal herbs on the table that were untouched. Zhang Xiaohua rolled his eyes and took out a few more jade boxes. He divided the remaining medicinal herbs into half and placed them into the jade boxes. Anyway, I've already told Valley Head Nie and Elder Zhang to leave half for me. I'm only taking them now because I'm afraid that the vitality in the medicinal herbs will dissipate. After doing all this, Zhang Xiaohua sat cross-legged again and calmed his heart to comprehend spirit traction. A day's time passed very quickly. -3. Chapter 490. Dusk had fallen for a long time. Zhang Xiaohua stopped her cultivation and looked at the empty pill room with a smile. Elder Zhang's personality has changed? An entire day has passed, and he still hasn't come to see his precious crimson flame pill? Just as she was thinking, she heard footsteps. Without releasing her divine sense, Zhang Xiaohua knew that it was Nie Chinyu. When Nie Chinyu entered the alchemy room, Zhang Xiaohua deliberately looked behind her and said, Where's Elder Zhang? Uncle Nie? I haven't seen them for an entire day, and I miss them. Why haven't they come to see me refine pills? Uft. Nie Chinyu laughed out loud. You really want them to come? I'll go call them right now. Nie Chinyu also pretended to leave. Zhang Xiaohua hurriedly said, Forget it, I'll just think about them. Uncle Nie still has the huge Rejuvenation Valley to take care of, and Elder Zhang still has the handsome Deity to take care of. There's no need for you to make another trip. Bah! Nie Chinyu sneered. Even if you want them to come, they may not come. Without waiting for Zhang Xiaohua to ask, Nie Chinyu said directly, Those who came and left after being scolded by you were asked to enter the elixir chamber one moment and leave the elixir chamber the next. They are all your elders. How can they still keep their dignity? If you let them watch from the pill room, they'll naturally come. Zhang Xiaohua came to a realization. She pointed at Nia Qinyu and laughed. Little fish, Nia, you're trying to persuade them again. Did Elder Zhang go to look for you? Nia Qinyu covered her mouth and laughed. Looks like I can't hide anything from Big Brother in. Father and Elder Zhang both asked me to ask you. If you let them see something new in the future, they'll come. If it's just a pancake like medicinal liquid for 10 days, they won't come. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, Then you should tell the two of them to come back on the last day. There won't be much change in the next 10 days. Nia Qinyu nodded, and then asked a few more questions about the 5 elements Dian formation. She was inspired by Zhang Xiaohua and wanted to think about something of her own. However, there were too many things included in the immortal Tao formation. It was not easy to just accept them all. She had just come into contact with the formation. So how could she understand her own things? Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua answered all her questions without hesitation. Nia Qinyu's eyes sparkled as she listened to Zhang Xiaohua. Looking at Nia Qinyu's eyes, Zhang Xiaohua raised her little tail high and looked like a master. She said, I don't have much time left, little fishy. When I leave, where will you find another master like me? Why aren't you working hard to master it? If it was any other day, Nia Qinyu would have already scolded Zhang Xiaohua for being so arrogant. However, when she heard it now, she felt weak in her heart. She pursed her lips and did not say anything. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua had an indescribable feeling in her heart. She quickly picked up some common knowledge about the formation, including the 5 elements formation and the tripartite formation. She combined it with her own martial arts knowledge and tried her best to make Nia Qinyu understand and practice it on a daily basis. This gradually diverted Nia Qinyu's attention and made her listen more attentively. Nia Qinyu only left reluctantly when it was late at night. After Nia Qinyu left the inner valley, Zhang Xiaohua immediately restricted the alchemy room. She did not waste any time and continued to comprehend the heavenly Tao. Zhang Xiaohua did not think that she was wasting time by explaining formations to Nia Qinyu. First, Nia Qinyu's cultivation in martial arts was limited. If she could learn formations, she would have some ability to protect herself. This could be considered repaying Nia Qinyu's wisdom. Second, Zhang Xiaohua's formations were fumbled by herself based on jade slips and might not be completely correct. During the lecture, she could also comprehend or make up for new things. After a while, it was almost midnight. Zhang Xiaohua, who was sitting on the bed, suddenly opened her eyes. She frowned and released her divine sense from the alchemy room, directly sweeping outside Rejuvenation Valley. She saw several carriages and several horses carrying a group of people along the small path toward Rejuvenation Valley. Zhang Xiaohua was puzzled. Why were there still people coming? However, judging from their hurried but not surreptitious appearances, they didn't seem to have any ill intentions towards Rejuvenation Valley. Right at this moment, a guard dressed in martial attire scuttled out from the forest on the side of the path. He stood in the middle of the path and held a long spear in his hand, blocking the path of the carriages. The carriages all stopped. A young man dressed in martial attire riding a white horse stepped out of the crowd and walked towards the guard. Under the moonlight, Zhang Xiaohua could clearly see that it was Rejuvenation Valley's second son-in-law, the young gang master of the whale gang, Changsheng. When she saw this, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't be bothered to look any further. She withdrew her divine sense. However, she found it strange. It was already the middle of the night. Why had Nia Qinyu brought her husband back to her parents' home? Ever since Zhang Xiaohua reached the peak of the early stage of qi condensation, her comprehension of the heavenly Tao had improved slightly. In particular, she'd made new gains in the past few days when she'd combined the incantation of spirit guidance with the heavenly Tao. It was very easy for her to merge her entire body into her surroundings. Even if she didn't release her divine sense, she could still reflect any abnormal movements within a certain radius into her mind. However, Nie Chinyu was Nie Chinyu's second older sister. When she returned to her parents' home had nothing to do with Zhang Xiaohua. He naturally wouldn't pay her any attention. Moreover, the time to cultivate the Carefree Heart Sutra was about to arrive. Even if he wanted to pay her any attention, there was nothing he could do. Zhang Xiaohua stood up and floated over to the pill cauldron. She carefully examined the situation within the cauldron. She still felt a bit uneasy. Just as the recipe for the Meridian Soothing Pill in the Jade Slip had said, the Meridian Soothing Pill was only a low-level pill. She only needed to pay attention to the cauldron for a dozen or so days. She didn't need to pay attention to the temperature at all times. However, she had several hours between midnight and daybreak. She couldn't pay attention to anything at all. If she made a single mistake, all of her previous efforts would be wasted. Sigh, if only I had a child to look after the cauldron. Zhang Xiaohua, who was similar to an alchemy boy, couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Moreover, the image of a scabby kid appeared in his mind for no reason. It was actually Ji Xiaohua from Pining Town, who had the same name as him. Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but smile. She thought to herself, if I had a scabby-headed child to look after the cauldron, wouldn't I be laughed to death by others? Seeing that the time was about to arrive, Zhang Xiaohua didn't have time to let her imagination run wild. She concentrated and orderly injected some techniques into the cauldron and medicinal liquid. Then, she sat cross-legged on the cattail hassock in front of the cauldron. She took out 2 vitality stones from her bosom and closed her eyes to cultivate the Carefree Heart Sutra. Not long after, mysterious fluctuations surged from Zhang Xiaohua's body. Countless invisible starlight from the endless starry sky shone through the mountain walls of Rejuvenation Valley and directly shone around Zhang Xiaohua. Everything was no different from his nightly cultivation. However, although there was no difference in Zhang Xiaohua's cultivation today, there was a change in the medicinal liquid being nurtured in the cauldron in front of her. The essence of the scarlet firegrass and the essence of the crimson pearl grass in the medicinal liquid were interacting with each other like water and fire. They were constantly vibrating and rotating. Zhang Xiaohua was sitting in front of the cauldron. Her whole body was shrouded by the starlight, and the cauldron above the earth fire was inevitably enveloped as well. The starlight entered Zhang Xiaohua's body and also entered the rotating fusion of water and fire. The 2 essences that were still vibrating and seemed to be rejecting further fusion gradually accepted each other harmoniously after the starlight entered. The vibration of the medicinal liquid also gradually weakened and gradually calmed down as time passed. Moreover, due to the mysterious fluctuations surging from Zhang Xiaohua's body, these fluctuations caused the starlight around her to vibrate. The starlight in the medicinal liquid was also unavoidably affected. Therefore, the rotation of the medicinal liquid was also affected by these mysterious fluctuations. There were some slight changes in the rotation of the medicinal liquid. As a result, more flickering starlight was attracted into the medicinal liquid. The next morning, Zhang Xiaohua opened her eyes and immediately looked into the cauldron. Following Zhang Xiaohua's awakening, the fluctuations on her body immediately disappeared. The starlight also immediately stopped projecting. Naturally, the starlight in the medicinal liquid also disappeared. However, the changes in the rotation of the medicinal liquid remained. It was a pity that these changes were too weak. Even when Zhang Xiaohua used her divine sense to observe carefully, she did not detect any changes at all. Not having any changes was the best result. Zhang Xiaohua heaved a sigh of relief. She stood up and used a few more hand seals to remove the restriction on the cauldron room. She then walked to the empty space in front of the cauldron room and started cultivating the Big Dipper magical fist. Although Zhang Xiaohua had already told Nie Qinyu yesterday to pass on the message to Valley Head Nie and Elder Zhang that there would not be any special changes in the 10 over days of refining the pills, so there was no need for them to come and observe. However, not long after Zhang Xiaohua returned to the cauldron room to comprehend the god's guidance, Valley Head Nie and Elder Zhang came over hand in hand. After greeting each other, the two of them could not wait to observe the medicinal liquid in the cauldron. They saw that the medicinal liquid was still at the bottom of the cauldron, and there was no change from yesterday. The two of them could not help but look at each other in dismay. Could it be that this medicinal liquid had been roasting at the bottom of the cauldron for 10 over days? What was the difference between this and one day? Of course, they understood in their hearts that there was definitely a difference. Otherwise, Zhang Xiaohua would not have stayed in this cauldron room for 10 over days. But the question was, what was the difference? Was it to refine the essence of the medicinal herbs? The two of them almost reached out a hand to grab Zhang Xiaohua's neck and make her say the reason. But looking at Zhang Xiaohua's smiling and closed mouth, they knew that this fellow was going to invite them out again. Sure enough, just as Zhang Xiaohua was about to open her mouth, Elder Zhang said with a smile, "Ren Xiaoxia, Big White caught a cold while looking after the medicinal herbs yesterday. Our rejuvenation valley is too big and I can't manage it alone. I am relying on Big White to patrol here, so I have to take good care of it. I reckon that I won't be coming over for the next few days. The refinement of this crimson flame pill will all depend on Xiaoxia." Valley Master Nya also forced a smile and said, "I also have to deal with one matter after another in this valley. It seems that I won't be able to come over often. I will have to trouble my nephew with this matter." Valley Master Nya frowned deeply. These words seemed to be the truth. Zhang Xiaohua's heart also moved. Thinking of what she saw last night, she could not help but laugh secretly. Even an upright official finds it difficult to resolve family matters. This must be Rejuvenation Valley's own matter. -3. Chapter 491. Zhang Xiaohua lowered her head and pretended to think. She then said solemnly, "If that's the case, then you two seniors can go about your business. There's no need for you to come over for the rest. How about I inform you after I've successfully refined the Crimson Flame Pill?" Valley Head Nie glanced at Elder Zhang and nodded. "That's the only way. Nephew, you've worked hard. If you need anything, just tell little you. All the medicinal herbs in Rejuvenation Valley will be at your disposal." Hearing the word medicinal herbs, Zhang Xiaohua pointed at the jade box on the table and said, "After a while I will put the other medicinal herbs into the cauldron according to their weight. I will put away the remaining medicinal herbs first. What do you two think?" The two nodded and had no objections. This was something they had discussed beforehand. Zhang Xiaohua was just putting it away first. After chatting for a while, Valley Head Nie and Elder Zhang were about to leave with conflicting emotions. Seeing Valley Head Nie frown, Zhang Xiaohua suddenly thought of the fragrant religion. She immediately asked, "Uncle Nie, are the people from the fragrant religion about to arrive?" Valley Head Nie nodded and said, "It should be around this time. However, nephew, don't worry. This old man won't forget about your matter. I've already arranged everything properly. Even if the people from the fragrant religion come now, this old man will delay them until the Crimson Flame Pill is successfully refined." Zhang Xiaohua heard this and sighed. "The Crimson Flame Pill can still be refined in the future. I don't want to push back the opportunity to go to the fragrant religion. I ask for Uncle Nie's understanding." Valley Head Nie looked at Elder Zhang and also nodded. This old man understands nephew's thoughts. "Nephew, just focus on refining the pill. This old man will arrange everything." After speaking, the two cupped their hands and bid farewell. Zhang Xiaohua stood alone in front of the cauldron. Thinking of Valley Head Nie's expression just now, Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. She understood that Valley Head Nie was most concerned about this Crimson Flame Pill, but what she cared about was the opportunity to go to the Cult of Fragrance. If the people from the Cult of Fragrance were to come now, there would be an irreconcilable conflict between her request and rejuvenation valleys. She hoped that the people from the cult of fragrance would come a little later. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua, who had been waiting for people from the fragrance cult to come quickly, wanted to delay this moment. This day passed very peacefully. In the morning, Zhang Xiaohua threw the remaining medicinal ingredients into the pill furnace and controlled the temperature of the earth fire to slowly quench the impurities of the remaining medicinal ingredients. When it was close to noon, Zhang Xiaohua once again injected a series of complicated spells into the pill furnace. She observed the faint changes of the 5 elements in the pill furnace and officially entered the pill gestation stage. When it came to pill incubation, he only had to pay attention to the temperature of the earth fire and control the stability of the cauldron. There was nothing else to pay special attention to. Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua took some time to separate a strand of consciousness to watch over the cauldron and began his usual cultivation. In the blink of an eye, nearly 10 days had passed. Valley Master Nye and Elder Zhang did not appear again. Only Nye Qinyu came to Zhang Xiaohua almost every night to ask questions about the 5 elements Dian formation. With the depth of her study, Nye Qinyu had already mastered the basics of this formation. It had to be said that Nye Qinyu, who did not have a good aptitude in martial arts, was still better than ordinary people when it came to the cultivation of formations. Therefore, when Zhang Xiaohua answered her questions, he slowly taught her some of the basic knowledge of formations and restrictions. Zhang Xiaohua's cultivation was even more remarkable. She had already begun to comprehend the cultivation concealment chant of God's guidance and had already achieved some small success. If there were no accidents, she would be able to achieve large success in a short period of time. At that time, Zhang Xiaohua would not attract the attention of the experts in the fragrant religion. After all, Zhang Xiaohua only went to the fragrant religion to look for Zhang Xiaohu and did not have any intention of causing trouble for the fragrant religion. However, Nye Qinyu's expression was the same as Valley Master Nye's. At first, it was just a frown, but recently, there was a slight worry on her face. Zhang Xiaohua originally decided not to ask, but in the end he couldn't help but ask, "Little fishy Nye, 10 days ago I saw Uncle Nye's worried face. You also seem to have something on your mind. I know this is a family matter of your Rejuvenation Valley. If there is anything I can help with, there is no harm in asking." Nye Qinyu forced a smile and said, "Alas, this matter." However, she only said the beginning and did not want to continue. She said, "It's nothing, Big Brother Rin. This is purely a private matter of our Rejuvenation Valley. You can't help much. You should concentrate on refining the pills. It would be best if you finished refining before the people from the fragrant religion arrive. Otherwise, it will always..." In the end, there was another sentence that he didn't finish. Zhang Xiaohua knew that she was also afraid that the people from the fragrant religion would suddenly come and he would not be able to explain himself to the Rejuvenation Valley. He shrugged and said, "This matter can only depend on the heavens. I can only do my best." "Alas," Nye Qinyu sighed and said, "but many things do not go according to one's wishes." Zhang Xiaohua's heart trembled, and he vaguely had a bad feeling. He immediately asked, "Could it be that the people from the fragrant religion have already arrived?" Nye Qinyu rolled her eyes and said reproachfully, "If the people from the fragrant religion came, even if Father did not tell you, would I not tell you?" Zhang Xiaohua said apologetically, "Little fish Nye, don't blame me. I was also anxious." Nye Qinyu waved her hand and said, "It's nothing, Big Brother Rin. Don't worry. As long as the people from the fragrant religion come, and Father will tell you whether or not the Crimson Flame pill is refined. You don't have to worry." Zhang Xiaohua nodded and smiled. After a while, Nye Qinyu was obviously not in the mood to study. Zhang Xiaohua did not keep her and sent her out of the alchemy room. Not to mention that Zhang Xiaohua was still sitting cross-legged in front of the alchemy furnace. She did not make any gestures to inject the liquid into the furnace. After leaving the alchemy room, Nye Qinyu went out of the inner valley. She did not go to the Peach Blossom Temple, but went directly to the Huichan Hall. At this time, there were already many people sitting in the Huichan Hall. Valley Master Nya was sitting at the head of the table, expressionlessly sipping tea from time to time. On his left, the two disciples, Fei He and Mu Qingxian, were sitting upright with their heads bowed. They looked like clay bodhisattvas. On his right, the eldest daughter, Nya Qianrong, and her husband, Yu Zhonglin, were looking at each other, not knowing what to do. Their second daughter, Nya Qianxiu, and her husband, Chongsheng, were slightly angry. They exchanged glances and glanced at Valley Master Nya from the corner of their eyes. Seeing Nya Qinyu enter the Huichan Hall, Valley Master Nya was surprised and smiled. "Little Yu, why are you back so early today?" Nya Qinyu looked at everyone and said, "Big Brother Rin is a little tired, so I came back early." After she finished speaking, she greeted everyone in the hall and casually sat down next to Mu Qingxian. Hearing Nya Qinyu's words, the anger on Chongsheng's face became even stronger. He gave Nya Qianxiu a look. Nya Qinyu coughed and said to Valley Master Nya, "Father, wasn't this young man with the surname Rin fine? As long as he helped our Huichan Valley get through this difficult time, he would be kicked out. Why is he still staying in the valley after so long? Could it be that this guy changed his mind and Father couldn't kick him out because of your face? If Father doesn't want to be the bad guy, then I will go and explain to him so that he doesn't have any bad ideas and leaves the valley as soon as possible." When Valley Master Nya heard this, he shook his head and said, "Nephew Ren is staying in the valley not because of your sister, but because of other important matters. You don't have to worry about it." "Nephew?" Nya Qianxiu sneered and said, "Since Father is calling him nephew, then have you investigated the background of this nephew? He is staying in our Huichan Valley for no reason, and is even trying to build a relationship with us. Don't fall into his trap." When Nya Qinyu heard this, her face turned pale and she said, "Second sister, Big Brother Rin has a chivalrous heart and didn't take advantage of our Huichan Valley. He just—" Nya Qianxiu interrupted her words and said, "Little you must not be bewitched by him and lose your usual intelligence. The bad men in this world like to play hard to get. He obviously has thousands of ideas for you, but you can't see through them and think that he doesn't care. Only when you take the bait will he reveal his ferocious face. I think this Rin is such a person. Even second sister, who has just met him a few times, can see your feelings for him. How can he not know? Since he has no interest in you and helped our Huichan Valley, we can just give him some elixirs and some gold, silver, and jewels. He can just come from afar. Why is he still staying in the valley to talk to you? This person must have an unspeakable plan in his heart." Nya Qinyu's face turned pale. When Yu Zhonglin heard this, he opened his mouth and was about to say something, but Nya Qianrong pulled his sleeve and shook her head. Yu Zhonglin was stunned and very puzzled. However, he saw Nya Qianrong constantly winking at him. So he looked back and saw Valley Master Nya's face was terrifyingly gloomy and showed signs of anger at any time. He immediately extinguished the thought of speaking and frowned as he watched Nya Qianxiu's performance. At this time, Chongsheng coughed and stopped Nya Qianxiu from continuing. He smiled and said, "You said so much, but he is just an outsider. Little Yu is much smarter than us. How can she not know how to be careful? Moreover, father-in-law is also here. He will definitely not be deceived by this hypocrite." The word outsider was enunciated very clearly. When Nya Qianxiu heard this, she also smiled and said, "Husband, you are right. I am just afraid that our family will be taken advantage of. So I reminded little Yu that an outsider is an outsider and can't be completely trusted." Then she said to Nya Qianrong, "Do you think what little sister said is right, big sister?" Nya Qianrong was a little caught off guard and hurriedly said, "Second sister is right. However, the specific problem needs to be analyzed in detail." After saying that, she shut her mouth and refused to say another word. Huichan Hall was silent for a while. Then they heard Chongsheng say again, "Father-in-law, what do you think about the matter that I mentioned last time?" -3. Chapter 492. A cold smile appeared on Valley Master Nye's face when he heard this. Xiao Chang, I've already answered you about this matter several days ago. Do I still need to repeat myself? An almost imperceptible trace of anger flashed through Changsheng's eyes, but his expression remained warm and genial. He said respectfully, Father-in-law, please understand. This son-in-law of mine isn't making things difficult for you. Moreover, Changsheng isn't an outsider. He's a nephew I watched grow up. He can't practice martial arts, but he's a bit smart. If you don't help him, this child's future will be bleak. Valley Master, Nye coldly snorted. The Whale Gang is a famous gang in the Jianghu. Your nephew only needs to find some work in the gang. Won't this be easily solved? Why go so far for what's near? When Yu Zhonglin heard this, he couldn't help but feel surprised. His father-in-law had always been kind and amiable. Whenever there was a problem with the Whale Gang, he would grant it. He wasn't stingy at all. Although Rejuvenation Valley's attitude towards the Whale Gang wasn't as good as Deer Cry Sec's, they were all ordinary son-in-laws. Presumably, he wouldn't be stingy with Changsheng. What did Changsheng want his father-in-law to do for him to refuse again and again? Just as he was about to speak, Nye Qianrong tugged on his sleeve. When Yu Zhonglin looked over, he saw his wife shaking her head slightly. Changsheng glanced at Nye Qianxiu out of the corner of his eye, but didn't say anything else. Nye Qianxiu felt wronged. Father, Changsheng is also my nephew. He treats me with respect every day. He's a good person. Moreover, before I returned home, I already promised father-in-law that I would complete this matter for him. Look at the gifts I brought back. They're all gifts from the Whale Gang. Just give me some face and agree. Valley Master, Nye didn't hesitate. He shook his head and said, if it were anything else, I would have agreed long ago. Even if you married into the Whale Gang, you're still my daughter. How could I not give you face? However, this matter is truly important. I can't ignore it. After that, he took a sip of tea and said, when you returned late that night, you told me about this matter early in the morning. At that time, I didn't immediately refuse. I only thought about it again and again. This involves the reputation of our Rejuvenation Valley, so I didn't dare to make a decision on my own. Seeing this, Nye Qianxiu turned her head to look at Mu Qingxian and Fei He. However, the two of them had remained silent ever since they entered the Rejuvenation Hall. They were completely focused on tasting the tea, as if they had never tasted such a wonderful tea before. Nye Qianrong had no choice but to turn her head to look at Nye Qinyu. Nye Qinyu was annoyed that she had scolded Zhang Xiaohua just now. She pouted and looked impatient. She did not look at her and just used her finger to draw something in the air. Nye Qianxiu thought that she was fooling around and was extremely angry. If Zhang Xiaohua was here, she would be able to see that Nye Qinyu was drawing the 5 elements Dian formation. The entire Rejuvenation Hall immediately fell into an awkward silence. Yu Zhonglin really couldn't take it anymore. After all, in this hall, only he and Changsheng had the role of son-in-law. If he didn't say anything at this time, he would lose out in terms of morality. As a result, he coughed and said that father-in-law, although the Whale Gang is a large sect, it is still the place where Changsheng grew up. If he only makes a living in one place, it is inevitable that he will have the mindset of a frog in a well. If he comes to Rejuvenation Valley, it can be considered as making up for his shortcomings and learning new skills. I feel that this is a good thing. Moreover, Changsheng also came to our Deer Cry sect with second sister 2 years ago. Valley Master Nye looked at his son-in-law and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Zhonglin, do you think that if Changsheng came to my Rejuvenation Valley, the Whale Gang would give me a carriage full of gifts? Do you think I'll reject you again and again? Yu Zhonglin was speechless. Nye Qianrong smiled and said, Father, please don't blame Zhonglin. He has good intentions and wants to help second sister. It's just that he doesn't know what's going on. However, your daughter is also confused. Valley Master Nye sighed. You just came back this afternoon. Naturally, you don't know the reason. Qianxiu and Changsheng are begging me for the same thing you begged me for 6 years ago." As soon as he finished speaking, Nie Qianrong and Yu Zhonglin's expressions changed slightly. They looked at each other and exchanged glances. They didn't say anything else. Valley Master Nie continued, "If Changxing only came to my rejuvenation valley, I wouldn't have anything to say. I couldn't ask for anything more. However, just like Zhonglin's cousin, he wants to pass down the incense cult and try his luck. Do you think it's easy to be an alchemy boy? Not to mention that I haven't seen a single alchemy boy come back after so many years. If Changxing goes, who knows when he'll be able to come back?" Before he finished speaking, Changxing said, "Father-in-law, please don't worry about this. I already explained the situation to my father and brothers before coming here. They all feel that if he goes to the incense cult, there will naturally be other opportunities. It doesn't matter if he doesn't come back. If he can make a name for himself, he will be able to bring honor to his ancestors and raise the prestige of the Whale Gang." Valley Master Nie smiled bitterly. "Not a single one of the alchemy boys sent by our Rejuvenation Valley has ever come back. Although we hear that they are doing very well in the incense cult, we don't see any living people. It's inevitable that there will be something wrong." Nie Qianxiu was still unwilling. "Father, you don't need to worry. We only agreed to send him to the incense cult. As for his fate, whether he comes back or not, it's not something we can control." Valley Master Nie scolded. "Qianxiu, you're being muddle-headed. Your husband's family's matters are our Rejuvenation Valley's matters. Changsheng is also our relative. This matter is clearly dangerous, and it's not like there are no other ways. Why do you insist on walking down this single-plank bridge? Father, your daughter has never asked you for anything in all these years. This is your daughter's request. You should just agree." Valley Master Nie still shook his head. "There's one more thing. The incense cult has always maintained close ties with Rejuvenation Valley. They even strongly support our Rejuvenation Valley in the pugilistic world. However, we treat people sincerely. Every time they come to Rejuvenation Valley to pick people, we receive them with sincerity. We let them choose from the alchemy boys that we focus on nurturing. You have to know that the incense cult has made it clear that they only want alchemy boys trained by our Rejuvenation Valley. If I let Changxing go forward, wouldn't it be cheating?" Hearing this, Changxing and Nie Qianxiu's faces showed a trace of anger. However, they still endured and did not flare up. They only softly pleaded, "Father, although Changsheng is not our alchemy boy, he is still Changsheng's nephew. We know him better than our alchemy boys. Jinjin is not an outsider. What is there to be worried about?" The word outsider was clearly enunciated. Valley Master Nie shook his head. "If I could make an exception, I would have made an exception for Zhonglin's cousin a few years ago. Why wait until now? You should think of another way." At this time, Nie Qianxiu could not bear it anymore. She stood up. "Father, it's not that I want to make things difficult for you. Since you want to take care of the alchemy boys, then don't include outsiders. You have to be fair. On one hand, you want to send an outsider to the incense cult as an alchemy boy. On the other hand, you keep denying the future of your own people. Do you think I don't have other thoughts?" When Valley Master Nie heard this, his face also showed anger. He frowned and looked at Yu Zhonglin. Yu Zhonglin was shocked. He quickly said, "Father-in-law, although this son-in-law also came to welcome the people from the incense cult, I just returned to the valley this afternoon. It was at this rejuvenation hall that I saw second sister and second brother-in-law." Nie Qianxiu sneered. "Father, there is no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world. Since you want to send Ren Xiaoyao to the incense cult, then don't be afraid of others knowing." Then he glanced at Nie Qinyu, who was also surprised, and said, "I thought there was something wrong with Ren Xiaoyao that day. Even if he helped him when he saw injustice, why didn't he leave when the matter was over? He just stayed in my Rejuvenation Valley and kept saying that he didn't need any repayment from us. I thought he was very noble. It turns out that he didn't care about the foundation of my Rejuvenation Valley at all. He had already made his plan. He turned out to be a super sect in Jianghu, the incense cult. Maybe he had already calculated this plan when he saved little you. Maybe he was even sent by the enemy. Everything had already been arranged. Nie Chinyu said angrily, "You second sister, how can you slander big brother in like this?" He didn't even know what Rejuvenation Valley was that day. Nie Chinyu sneered, "This is even more nonsense. Although my Rejuvenation Valley is not as famous as the incense cult in Jianghu, there must be a problem if a person in Jianghu hasn't even heard of Rejuvenation Valley. Little you, don't be blinded by others. Others have sold Rejuvenation Valley, and you still help them count the money. Shut up." Valley Master Nya was also furious. "I know what kind of person Rin Xiaoxia is. He has been in our Rejuvenation Valley for several months. If he has any bad conduct or intentions, how can we not see it? Moreover, your eldest senior brother and second senior brother have also been in contact with him. They have all praised him. Do you think we are all blind?" Fei He and Mu Qingxian also heard that Zhang Xiaohua wanted to go to the incense cult for the first time. They were very surprised. However, when they heard their master mention it, they quickly nodded. Yes, this Rin Xiaoxia is indeed a magnanimous person. He is not what you think. Nie Qianxiu did not back down. "You may know a person's face, but not his heart. I have only seen him once. However, from the fact that he wants to go to the incense cult, I know that his purpose in saving little you is not simple. Moreover, father, no matter what, Rin Xiaoyao is an outsider. He has not really married our family's little you. Since you can let him pretend to be an alchemy boy and enter the incense cult, why can't you help him and let him have a good future in the incense cult?" Valley Master Nya sighed. "Ai, this is clearly different." Nya Qianxiu sneered again. "What's the difference?" "He just wants to hug the incense cult's thigh and make plans for his future." Seeing that Valley Master Nya was still shaking his head, Nya Qianxiu gritted her teeth. "If father doesn't agree, then no one will go. If you let that person go to the incense cult, then don't blame your daughter." -3. Chapter 493. Valley Master Nya said angrily, "What do you want?" Nya Qianxiu also seemed to have shed all pretense of cordiality. She said, "Father, you naturally know your daughter's temperament. I never give up until I achieve my goals. If father only wants that bastard to go to the incense cult, then don't blame me for leaking information to the incense cult." When Valley Master Nya heard this, he didn't fly into a rage as Nya Qianxiu had imagined. He only smiled. "I have no intention of hiding nephew Ren's identity. Even if the incense cult's emissaries find out about this, they won't blame us." "Is that so, father?" Nya Qianxiu smiled like a kitten. "Father will definitely say that he is little Yu's future husband. With this identity, the incense cult naturally won't blame us. However, what if they find out that this husband is just a gimmick and has nothing to do with our little you, right? What if it's a person of unknown origin?" You, Valley Master Nya, was finally enraged. He roared, "You dare!" "Why wouldn't I dare?" Nya Qianxiu raised her head. "It's just a small favor. If father isn't even willing to help, I really don't have the face to return to the whale gang." Chang Sheng stood up at the right time and scolded, "Little Xiu, how can you speak to father like this?" He then bowed to Valley Master Nya and said, "Father-in-law, please don't blame her. Little Xiu's temper is like this. You know that she's just saying things out of anger. If the incense cult finds out about this, won't it become a big problem? At the very least, they'll cut off all ties with our Rejuvenation Valley. At the very least, they might even teach us a lesson. The incense cult's anger isn't something that our Rejuvenation Valley or the Jade Foundation Alliance can handle. Don't you think so, brother-in-law?" Yu Zhonglin was listening intently. When he was suddenly called, he was startled awake. "Oh, yes, brother-in-law is right. Nya Chenyu, who was sitting below her two senior brothers, also looked at her father with a worried expression. Second sister and brother-in-law were right. Letting Zhang Xiaohua into the incense cult was indeed risky. However, back then, she had thought that only Valley Master Nya Yuyan, the Jade Foundation Alliance's leaders, and herself knew that Zhang Xiaohua was going to the incense cult. Therefore, there was no risk. However, she didn't expect that her second sister would return to the valley late at night a few days ago and say that she wanted to force her way into the incense cult to secure a bright future. This wasn't something that had never happened before. Recently, even brother-in-law Yu Zhonglin's cousin had been rejected by her father. However, she didn't expect her second sister to have such detailed information. For a moment, she didn't know how to persuade her. Valley Master Nya flew into a rage out of humiliation. He never thought that his daughter would fall out with him because of her in-laws. The idea of sending Zhang Xiaohua to the incense cult wasn't suggested by Zhang Xiaohua. She had only asked for the location of the incense cult's headquarters. Everything was arranged by Valley Master Nya and Yuyan. It was all Yuyan's fault. Why did he think of sending her to the incense cult? However, when he thought about the influence that Zhang Xiaohua had on the Rejuvenation Valley in the past few months, Valley Master Nya couldn't help but secretly admire Yuyan's arrangement. If it wasn't for the kindness of sending Zhang Xiaohua to the incense cult, would Zhang Xiaohua have given so many things to the Rejuvenation Valley? Alchemy techniques, the 5 elements dye formation, and the crimson flame pill that was being refined now. That was an elixir that could increase one's cultivation by 10 years. It was something that he couldn't even dream of. This second sister is too much. How did she get caught up in this wave? It's so easy to refuse this year, but Valley Master Nya was also speechless. What Zhang Xiaohua had done was a secret of the Rejuvenation Valley. Nya Qianrong and Nya Qianxiu were married people and naturally couldn't reveal it. However, if he didn't say it, how could they know that it was the Rejuvenation Valley's secret that allowed Zhang Xiaohua to go to the incense cult? Since he couldn't say it, and he had to let Zhang Xiaohua go, the only thing that Valley Master Nya could do was to compromise. However, looking at Nya Qianxiu's appearance, looking at Chang Sheng's appearance, then looking at Nya Qianrong and Yu Zhonglin, Valley Master Nya was in a dilemma. Firstly, his second daughter had married an outsider, but she was of the same mind as her husband's family and used his weakness to threaten him. It was unforgivable. Secondly, he had previously refused his eldest daughter and son-in-law, and now he had to agree to his second daughter's relatives going to the incense cult. It was a dilemma, an absolute dilemma. Yu Zhonglin looked at Nya Qianrong and gave her a look. Nya Qianrong coughed and said, "Father, Yan Qi's grandfather told us about this matter on the way back to the Dear Christ sect. He was afraid that we would have some thoughts if we knew about this matter. In fact, since this matter was discussed by his grandfather and father, how could we have other thoughts? The matter last time was also a matter of the Dear Christ sect. Since his grandfather didn't care, we naturally wouldn't care. His grandfather also said very clearly that this matter was of great importance and must not be spread out. We also took it to heart. Until today, we have never mentioned it again, let alone said a word to anyone else." Then she glanced at Nya Qianxiu and continued, "Moreover, this is a private matter of the Rejuvenation Valley. Your daughter is already married and does not dare to interfere with the matters of the valley. The reason I came back today is just like before, to show my face in front of the incense cult and let them know about the Dear Christ sect. I have no other thoughts. Father, you can make your own decision. I have no objections." Yu Zhonglin also smiled and said, "Father-in-law, Qianrong is speaking from our hearts. Before we came, Father also told us so. You don't have to worry about us. Why is there such a big difference between people? They all have the same mother. Why do they look so different?" Valley Master Nya was even more helpless. Seeing this, Chang Sheng immediately stood up and bowed. "Father-in-law, I am sorry for being presumptuous. This is the first time and also the last time. In the future, I will not trouble father-in-law with such a difficult matter. Nya Chinchou also begged, Father, please agree. This really is the last time. Valley Master, Nya, said helplessly, Sai, you can leave for now. Let me think about it carefully. This was a tactful agreement. Other than Nya Chinchou, Chongsheng, and Nya Chinyu were all especially surprised. They didn't think that Valley Master Nya would yield to Nya Chinchou and Chongsheng for Zhang Xiaohua. What kind of charm did this Zhang Xiaohua have to make Valley Master Nya take such a big risk? Nya Chinyu wasn't surprised because she knew everything. She knew Zhang Xiaohua's importance and his use to Rejuvenation Valley. Nya Chinchou and Chongsheng weren't surprised because they knew that as long as Valley Master Nya allowed Zhang Xiaohua to spread the incense cult, they had no choice but to let Chongsheng go. Otherwise, it would be a life and death struggle. This wasn't what Valley Master Nya wanted to see. However, Nya Chinchou was still not satisfied. She hurriedly said, Father, what are you still thinking about? The messenger of the incense cult arrived in Sorrow City yesterday. Maybe he's coming to Rejuvenation Valley now. If you hesitate, the cucumber will be cold. It had to be said that Nya Chinchou was still a little too anxious. The old man had already acquiesced. Couldn't she give him a way out? Chongsheng hurriedly scolded. Chinchou, how can you speak to father like that? Hurry and apologize to father. Valley Master Nya was so angry that he laughed. It seems that you're really considerate. You even pay attention to the movements of the messenger of the incense cult. It's rare. If you use this effort on the development of the gang, you may benefit a lot. Nya Chinchou seemed to know that she was too anxious. She explained, Father, don't blame me. I already promised father-in-law before I came. I'm afraid that I'll lose face. That's why I'm anxious, Valley Master Nya sneered. If you're afraid of losing face, then what about other people's faces? Also, how can the movements of the messenger of the incense cult be known by us? I advise you not to overestimate yourself. Otherwise, if you get into trouble, no one can help you. Even if father helps you this time, he may not be able to help you next time. Hearing this, Nya Chinchou was pleasantly surprised. Father, you agree? Almost everyone present wanted to cover their faces. He had already said this much, but she still didn't understand. This IQ. Chongsheng pulled Nya Chinchou's sleeve and stood up again. He bowed and said, Thank you, father-in-law. This guy's etiquette tonight was almost more than a year. Valley Master Nya glared at them and snorted. He stood up and entered the inner hall. Seeing their master leave, Fei He and Mu Qingxian immediately stood up and cupped their hands to everyone. They turned and left the Rejuvenation Hall. Tonight's matter was not so much the Rejuvenation Valley's matter, but rather the Valley Master's private matter. Nya Chinyu also stood up. Her face was very gloomy. She looked at her second sister from the corner of her eyes. She felt like she didn't recognize her anymore. She nodded to her eldest sister and brother-in-law and went to catch up with Valley Master Nya. Nya Qianrong stood up and looked at her second sister. She wanted to say something, but stopped. She looked at Yu Zhonglin. They both shook their heads and left the Rejuvenation Hall hand in hand. Chongsheng seemed to be happy that his wish had been fulfilled, but he was also worried about offending his father-in-law. He looked at Nya Chinchou, who was still somewhat unwilling, and reproached her. You're usually so smart. Why are you so reckless today? Nya Chinchou sneered. Look at father's attitude today. It's obviously different from how he treated eldest sister and little you. If I don't fight for it, when will I be able to complete your father's task? But father-in-law has already agreed. You should have just given him a way out. Why force him to make a decision? You don't know this. Although father has agreed, little you just needs to say a bunch of nonsense in front of him. My efforts tonight will all be in vain. When the incense cult's emissary comes tomorrow, he just needs to say he doesn't agree. What else can we say? But you can't. Can't what? Aren't I doing this for the good of Rejuvenation Valley and our whale gang? It's just that father is stubborn. In the future, he'll definitely thank us. Forget it. Let's not talk too much here. Let's go back inside. The two looked at the silent inner hall and stood up to leave. -3. Chapter 494. The inner hall was an exquisite little room. Valley Master Nya was sitting on one side with his eyes closed, thinking about something. Nya Chenyu walked in quickly and sat beside him without saying anything. After a while, Valley Master Nya opened his eyes and asked, "Little you, what do you think about this?" Nya Chenyu said calmly, "I'll follow father's decision. I don't have much to say about this." "Sai, what's wrong with your second sister today? She's so overbearing. If not for the fact that I've watched her grow up, I would have doubted her intentions." "Father, don't worry too much. No matter what, second sister came from Rejuvenation Valley. She definitely won't have any intention of harming Rejuvenation Valley. This matter might be similar to what happened a few years ago with elder brother-in-law's family. They both want to use Rejuvenation Valley to hug incense, cult's thighs. If Chinyu can be valued in incense cult and become an outer or inner disciple, wouldn't the whale gang gain face? She'll be relying on incense cult's backing. Sai, how could it be that easy? Rejuvenation Valley and incense cult have been friends for many years, but they've never helped us more than a few times. Don't we still have to rely on our own efforts to overcome difficulties? Father, you're right, but that's just us telling the truth behind closed doors. How would others know? They only know that we're wearing bright clothes because we're borrowing incense cult's glory. That's why they're racking their brains to use Rejuvenation Valley's connections. I'm just afraid that once Chinyu opens her mouth, others will come to Rejuvenation Valley to do the same thing. That'll be difficult." Nya Chinyu smiled bitterly. "That's also impossible. According to second sister, if we don't let Chinyu go, big brother-in can forget about it. She'll definitely turn the world upside down. If the incense cult's emissary is like second sister said, he'll arrive tomorrow. We can't save him even if we want to. I hope this is the only time. There won't be a next time. Is a married daughter really like spilled water? She doesn't even care about father's efforts?" Then he looked at Nya Chinyu and smiled. "I wonder how little you will be in the future?" Nya Chinyu's face reddened. "Father, you're joking. How could I have such thoughts? I'll most likely stay by father's side and grow old in Rejuvenation Valley." Valley Master Nya sighed. Nephew Rin is really a good child, but Nya Chinyu immediately stopped Valley Head Nya from continuing. "Father, brother Rin might already have someone in his heart. Halfway through his words, he was too embarrassed to speak. Valley Master Nya asked curiously, "I don't know which family's daughter is from, but she's actually more attractive than our little you?" In the face of her father's comfort, Nya Chinyu did not feel happy at all. She just said, "Big brother Rin is very tight-lipped. I and Little Orange couldn't find out anything. Alas, I don't know what kind of woman is worthy of Big brother Rin. Let's not talk about it anymore. Little you, your big brother Rin isn't the only good man in this world. You don't have to be on this tree. Let's set our sights a little further. With my Rejuvenation Valley's ability, it won't be a big problem to find you a satisfactory husband." Nya Chinyu's face was lonely. "Let's talk about this later. After all, Big Brother-in hasn't been kicked out of Rejuvenation Valley by us yet." Speaking of kicking Zhang Xiaohua out of Rejuvenation Valley, Nya Chinyu's face unconsciously revealed a trace of a smile. Moreover, he entered the fragrant religion as the prospective son-in-law of Rejuvenation Valley. Even if you're anxious to marry off your daughter, you'll have to wait for this matter to pass. Moreover, Nya Chinyu hesitated for a moment. Father's martial arts competition for marriage this time is extremely grand. Who in the Jianghu doesn't know about it? Who would come to our Rejuvenation Valley to propose marriage? Valley Master Nya's face was apologetic. "Little you, father didn't consider this matter thoroughly. I've really wronged you." Nya Chinyu took a deep breath and smiled. Father's good intentions are to attract the enemy's attention. How could I not know this? How could I blame father? let's not talk about this matter anymore. The fragrant religion's emissary may come back to Rejuvenation Valley tomorrow. Just like before, they'll only stay in the valley for a day. Moreover, Big Brother Ren's Crimson Flame pill will take 2 days to refine. There's still a day's delay in between. Father will have to put in a bit more effort. AI, that's right. This is indeed a difficult matter. I've long since known that the fragrant religion's emissary has arrived in Macho City. Don't you think it's strange? The fragrant religion always arrives in Macho City before disappearing. Afterwards, they come to Rejuvenation Valley. Who knows what they're doing in Macho City? The fragrant religion's matters aren't something we can meddle in. Even second sister, Father, you have to warn them again. They mustn't play with fire and get burned. The fragrant religion's appearance is a warning to Rejuvenation Valley so that we can prepare in advance. Your second sister's men are probably the Whale Gang's men. They're making preparations to force their way into the fragrant religion this time. I don't think they'll appear again in the future. I hope that's the case. But AI, forget it. Second sister and the Whale Gang know the fragrant religion's strength. They definitely won't do anything foolish. That's right. Although your second sister isn't as smart as you, she's not stupid either. She's still able to distinguish between the pros and cons. Hey, little you, why are you so listless? Forget it, it's getting late. Father won't say any more. You've been learning the 5 elements multiplication formation all this time. You've also exhausted a lot of energy. Rest early. When Nye Chinyu heard this, she didn't say anything else. She stood up, bowed, and excused herself. A faint trace of worry could be seen on her face. Valley Master Nye gazed at his daughter's departing figure for a long time, unwilling to look away. That small and thin figure and her somewhat tired footsteps all indicated that his daughter was carrying a heavy burden on her shoulders. That's right. Little Yu's heart was completely set on Zhang Xiaohua, although there were many men in this world who would be able to walk into her heart. Not to mention a short period of time. Even several years might not be enough for her to walk out of the thousands of knots in her heart. Moreover, when he thought about Zhang Xiaohua's unparalleled martial arts, superb alchemy skills, and unfathomable formations, although there were many men in this world, how many could compare to her? It was no wonder that little Yu was deeply in love. Although it was already summer, the weather in Rejuvenation Valley was still like spring. The peach blossom forest in Peach Blossom Nunnery was still the same, but the peach blossoms had long since withered. Only lush green leaves remained. Of course, when she thought about the gorgeous peach blossoms when Zhang Xiaohua came with her, Nye Chinyu felt a wave of sadness. As the ancient saying went, flowers can't bloom for 100 days. Even in Rejuvenation Valley, which was like spring all year round, delicate peach blossoms couldn't bloom forever. After all, only a peach tree that bore peach blossoms was a real peach tree. Peach blossoms were just a process. In the inner valley of Rejuvenation Valley, Zhang Xiaohua, who was in the alchemy room, was completely unaware that Rejuvenation Valley almost had an internal strife because of him going to preach the incense cult. He also didn't know that Nye Chinyu was extremely sad when facing her beloved peach forest. At this moment, he was staring intently at the medicinal liquid in the alchemy furnace. His heart was slightly nervous. It was already the 12th day of alchemy. The medicinal liquid in the alchemy furnace had gradually taken shape. The internal rotation was also slowing down. Zhang Xiaohua used his divine sense to examine it carefully. The outer layer of the medicinal liquid seemed to be forming a formation that contained the 5 elements primordial qi. Why did he say that it seemed to be? That was because this formation was different from all the formations that Zhang Xiaohua had learned before. In other words, it was completely different from the formations that Zhang Xiaohua had practiced. Zhang Xiaohua had only forced the name formation onto this thing. This gradually formed formation harmonized the primordial qi of heaven and earth contained in the 2 main ingredients and several other ingredients in an orderly manner. It formed an elixir that had a universe within and the 5 elements fused together. Moreover, this formation also gradually underwent changes that Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense did not realize. It slowly isolated Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense, turning this elixir into a pure elixir. Zhang Xiaohua had practiced refining elixirs before. She had even refined the representative elixirs of Rejuvenation Valley using the immortal Dao technique. However, she had never seen such a distinct process in the refining process of other elixirs. It was this process that made Zhang Xiaohua feel that refining this kind of elixir was the real deal. Her so-called refining elixirs in the past was merely a warm-up process. If a low-level elixir already had such an effect, then what would a mid-level and high-level elixir be like? Zhang Xiaohua still had a trace of anticipation in her heart as she began to practice the Carefree Heart Sutra after inserting the last formula. It was another night of cultivation. The starlight was still penetrating into the crimson flame elixir that was about to take shape. During the 10 days of the elixir's gestation, Zhang Xiaohua would stand guard in front of the elixir furnace every night to practice the Carefree Heart Sutra. The starlight had shrouded the elixir in starlight for 10 days. Previously, it was still unreachable. Now, the entire elixir could already see bits of starlight embedded in the elixir. It was just that the addition of this starlight was a disaster or a blessing. The accumulation of starlight was also a matter of accumulation. Zhang Xiaohua did not notice it previously. She only knew that on the morning of the 13th day, she casually scanned the elixir liquid with her divine sense and suddenly discovered that at the end of the gestation, her divine sense could no longer casually scan the elixir. The changes within the elixir were basically invisible. However, this starlight was different from other essences. It was scattered in a very strange arrangement within the elixir. When Zhang Xiaohua saw the starlight, her entire body could not help but stiffen. This thing was not mentioned in the formula for the Meridian Soothing Elixir. It was also not mentioned in the formula for the Crimson Flame Elixir. Was there a deviation in her refining? Was that why this strange thing appeared? Zhang Xiaohua tilted her head and thought for a long time. From the time she put in the elixir until today's gestation, every spell, every step, she recalled in detail. However, she could not think of anything wrong. Could it be that when she turned the elixir liquid from a sphere into a pancake, and then from a pancake into a sphere, these starlight dots would appear? Scratching her head, Zhang Xiaohua was perplexed. How could this be possible? She had only casually used the spell. If that spell could create something out of nothing, that would be great. Could it be because the formula for the Meridian Soothing Elixir was incomplete? Only the herbs for the Crimson Flame Elixir were used? Zhang Xiaohua was just thinking when she suddenly frowned. She seemed to hear the sound of a string instrument by her ear. -3. Chapter 495. When Zhang Xiaohua heard the music, he couldn't help but stare blankly. He had lived in Rejuvenation Valley for several months, and the valley had always been very secluded. He had never heard such noise before, and the sound had actually traveled from the outer valley to the inner valley. However, Zhang Xiaohua's heart immediately rejoiced. Could it be that the people from the fragrant religion had arrived? At that moment, he didn't have time to examine the abnormality of the medicinal pill. He immediately released his divine sense and rushed out of the valley. He saw that the Rejuvenation Valley Manor was dressed up. Although it wasn't decorated with lanterns like it was the New Year, it seemed that a lot of effort had been put into it. At the manor's entrance, a group of people were holding musical instruments and playing with all their might. The music was coming from there. Valley Master Nye had changed into a new set of clothes. Behind him were Nye Qinyu, Fei He, Mu Qingxian, and the others. Even Nye Qianrong, Yu Zhonglin, Nye Qianxiu, and Changsheng were slightly behind, waiting in front of the manor's entrance. When he looked at the small path again, he saw a caravan of about 10 carriages coming along the small path towards Rejuvenation Valley. When he looked carefully, there were about 20 youths dressed in martial attire on the left and right sides of the caravan. All of them had long swords hanging from their waists. They were in high spirits as they rode on horseback to guard the sides. In particular, there was a slightly larger carriage in the middle of the caravan. There were even more people guarding it with a professional appearance. Zhang Xiaohua frowned. The curtain of the carriage was covered. If he wanted to see, he would have to look into the carriage. However, rashly releasing his divine sense into someone else's carriage didn't seem like a gentleman's act. Just as he was hesitating, he suddenly saw an abnormally white hand stretch out from the carriage and gently lift the curtain. A graceful woman wearing a veil on her face walked out. She raised her head to look at the distant Rejuvenation Valley and seemed to ask the person next to her. At this time, a short and fat man also immediately came down from a carriage behind the caravan. He was dressed in an official's robe. He jumped onto a horse and rushed to the front. With a face full of smiles, he explained something to the woman. This woman seemed to be the messenger of the fragrant religion. Zhang Xiaohua's spiritual sense hovered in front of the pure white veil for a long time, but it was unable to penetrate it. Not long after, she withdrew her spiritual sense. She would be able to see it in a short while. Now, the most important thing for Zhang Xiaohua was the pill in front of her. Putting aside the fact that Zhang Xiaohua had already seen the people from the cult of fragrance through her divine sense, Valley Master Nya, who was at the entrance of Rejuvenation Valley Manor, had an anxious expression on his face. Earlier, he had received a tip-off that the cult of fragrance's emissary would be arriving at Rejuvenation Valley today. Early in the morning, he had tidied up and prepared a welcoming ceremony according to past practice. However, looking at the time, it was already late. Why had the emissary not arrived yet? Just then, a rider galloped over. It was a guard from Rejuvenation Valley. When he arrived, he shouted, "Valley Head, the envoy from the incense order has arrived on a small path. He will arrive in approximately the time it takes for half a stick of incense to burn." Valley Master Nya nodded and shouted to the side, "Prepare the ceremony and welcome the envoy." Next to them, the sound of a string instrument became louder than before. Then Valley Master Nya said, "Everyone, follow this old man to welcome the envoy." After speaking, he led everyone from Rejuvenation Valley to the small path to welcome the envoy. When they arrived at the small path, the cult of fragrance's carriage was also in sight. Valley Master Nya no longer went forward to welcome them. He only left an empty space in front of the small path and quietly waited. When the cult of fragrance's carriage arrived, it stopped. The short and fat man wearing the official's robes rode up from behind. When he saw Valley Master Nya, he laughed and said, "Old Nya, we haven't seen each other for a few years. How is your health?" When Valley Master Nya saw the fat man, a smile appeared on his face. He quickly stepped forward and shouted, "Manager Yang, how are you? This old man heard the cries of magpies early in the morning and thought that you had come. See, you really did come." Valley Master Nya stepped forward and reached out to grab the reins of his horse. Manager Yang jumped down and reached out to grab Valley Master Nya's hand as if they were old friends who had been separated for a long time. Valley Master Nya looked at the familiar face and said, "This old man can't be compared to old Brother Yang. You live in an immortal realm and live the life of an immortal. These past few years can be considered to be thanks to old brother's blessings. Everything has been fine." When Manager Yang heard this, he laughed loudly and said, "Immortals are also made by humans. Moreover, I am not an immortal. My entire life is a life of toil. How can it compare to old brother, who monopolizes this valley that is like spring all year round and is free and unfettered?" Then he said in a low voice, "Old Brother Nya, I heard that Rejuvenation Valley had some difficult times before the new year. Why didn't you think to inform old Brother Nya? We've known each other for decades. Although we only meet once every few years, it's only right for us to reach out when we can." Valley Master Nya raised his head and looked at the carriages that were gradually stopping. He also said in a low voice, "I also know that it is not easy for old brother to come out. Our Rejuvenation Valley should take care of things that we can take care of ourselves. If we have to find old brother just because of a little commotion, then wouldn't old brother lose face? When Manager Yang heard this, his expression changed. He gave a thumbs up and said, "Old brother Nya is indeed a good man. No wonder our hall master thinks highly of you. With this kind of bearing, old brother Nya can't catch up." Valley Master Nya laughed mischievously and said, I wouldn't dare." Then he looked at the carriages that had stopped and said, "However, old brother Yang, this time there really is a difficult matter that needs your help." Manager Yang was greatly surprised and said, "This seems to be the first time old brother has asked me for help. If it wasn't an extremely difficult matter, you wouldn't have asked." At the same time, he also looked at the carriages that had stopped and said in a low voice, "We'll talk about this later." Then he said in a clear voice, "Let's go, Valley Master Nya. I'll take you to meet the envoy of the Fragrant Sect." Valley Master Nya also nodded and said, "I have the same intention." As he spoke, a Rejuvenation Valley disciple caught Manager Yang's horse. Valley Master Nya followed Manager Yang and walked straight to the carriage in the middle of the carriages. Before he could even reach the carriage, Zhang Xiaohua's spiritual consciousness saw the masked woman open the carriage's curtain and walk out, standing high above the carriage. Manager Yang and Valley Master Nya quickly walked forward. Manager Yang introduced, "Valley Master Nya, this is the envoy this time. I am the inner disciple of the Fragrant Sect, Lord Peacock Kong." Valley Master Nya didn't dare to be negligent. He bowed deeply and said, "This old man, Rejuvenation Valley Master Nya Shuai, greets Lord Kong." The masked Lord Kong slightly raised his hand and said softly, "Valley Master Nya is too polite. I've heard Yang Yao talk about Valley Master Nya on the way here. Rejuvenation Valley is flourishing with each passing day under Valley Master Nya's leadership. There is a new atmosphere that has opened this Lord's eyes. Furthermore, Rejuvenation Valley has been providing assistance to the Fragrant Sect for thousands of years and has benefited the Fragrant Sect greatly. Before we came, my master instructed us to express our gratitude to Rejuvenation Valley." Lord Kong's voice wasn't loud, but everyone present could hear him clearly. It was as if he was speaking next to their ears. Moreover, his words revealed an incomparable majesty and unquestionable authority. Valley Master Nya heard this and immediately bowed. I don't dare. Lord Kong is too polite. Your master is also too polite. It is my Rejuvenation Valley's honor to have the opportunity to work for the Fragrant Sect." Although Lord Kong expressed his gratitude, he didn't seem to be grateful at all. When he heard Valley Master Nya's reply, he was very satisfied and nodded. He didn't say anything else and returned to the carriage. When Manager Yang saw this, he smiled and said, "All right, Valley Master Nya, Lord Kong must be tired from the journey. Would Lord Kong please enter the manor and rest early? After we settle the matters of Rejuvenation Valley in the afternoon, we still have to depart early tomorrow morning." Valley Master Nya also nodded and said, "Everything has been arranged. Lord Kong, Manager Yang, please rest in the valley." When he finished speaking, the welcoming ceremony dispersed and a large road was opened in the middle. Lord Kong's carriage didn't stand on ceremony and sped through first. Manager Yang and Valley Master Nya both walked and followed at the side. The other carriages also followed. One after another, they entered the manor. Nya Chenyu and the others didn't even see the face of the Fragrant Sect's envoy. They carefully followed the carriage and returned to the manor. Rejuvenation Valley had received the envoys of the Fragrant Sect for hundreds of thousands of years. They had long been familiar with all kinds of rules. They had even received Manager Yang for dozens of years. There was no need to explain everything in detail. Manager Yang and Valley Master Nya carefully waited on Lord Kong. After arranging for him to enter the loft where Rejuvenation Valley received the envoys of the Fragrant Sect, the two walked hand in hand to Rejuvenation Hall. Valley Master Nya didn't dare to sit and insisted on inviting Manager Yang to sit. Manager Yang repeatedly waved his hand and said, Brother Nya, since Lord Kong isn't here, I won't be courteous with you. We've been friends for dozens of years. You're the Valley Master of Rejuvenation Valley. You should act as a host. You haven't even let me taste this 100-flower wine. How can you give this seat to me? Brother, you should sit at the head. Seeing Manager Yang refuse, Valley Master Nya muttered to himself and simply placed the 2 chairs together. He smiled and said, Brother Yang, how about this? Manager Yang clapped his hands and said, Since it's like this every year, Brother Nya, next time I come, I'll just place 2 chairs. No problem. Brother Yang can be considered half the master of Rejuvenation Valley. There's nothing to say. Valley Master Nya laughed brightly. The 2 sat down and drank the fragrant tea. Manager Yang smiled and said, Valley Master Nya, although we're friends, I have official duties to attend to. It's better for us to talk about official matters first. It won't be too late for us to chat after this year's Medicine Boy handover. AI, Rejuvenation Valley's 100-flower wine is really good. I don't know if I'll be able to drink it again in the future. Valley Master Nya was a bit absent-minded and said in a low voice, Brother Yang, what do you mean? Didn't I already teach you the recipe for the 100-flower wine 10 years ago? Could it be that it hasn't been brewed yet? Manager Yang curled his lips and said, I've already obtained your recipe and had my subordinates brew it according to the recipe. However, the wine that was brewed just doesn't taste as good as the one from Rejuvenation Valley. Don't you think that's strange? Valley Master Nya smiled and said, Then tonight, Brother Yang should drink a few more cups. Also, I've prepared quite a bit. Brother can take it away when you leave. Manager Yang was overjoyed when he heard this and said, If that's the case, then thank you, brother. Oh, right, brother said that there was something difficult. Should I say it now? Or wait until after the Medicine Boy handover? Come, there are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. -3. Chapter 496. When Valley Master Nya saw this, he looked around and said in a low voice, I remember when Brother Yang came here 10 years ago, you seemed to have said that you liked divine weapons very much. Manager Yang was stunned, and then his eyes lit up. Brother Nya has a good memory. That year it was just a drunken nonsense, but you still remember it clearly. Valley Master Nya smiled and took out a short sword from his chest. It was about 3 inches long and had a simple scabbard with green spots. He handed it in front of Manager Yang and said, Brother Yang, can you help me appraise it? Manager Yang's eyes had never left the scabbard since the short sword appeared. Seeing Valley Master Nya hand it over, he didn't hesitate and reached out to take it. First, he carefully looked at its appearance. Then he held the scabbard with one hand and the hilt with the other. His hands slightly exerted force, and with a light sound, the bright short sword was pulled out of the scabbard. It was like a flash of lightning on the ground. Manager Yang's eyes first squinted and then widened. After looking at it for a while, 2 words came out of his mouth. Good sword! Then he reluctantly handed it to Valley Master Nya and said, Brother Nya, where did you get this sword? What's its name? Valley Master Nya didn't take the sword and only smiled. This sword was accidentally found by weapon forging sect's Boss C in the ruins of their sect. It doesn't have a name. How rare. There's actually such a sharp, nameless short sword in this world. It's comparable to the 4 famous swords of Jianghu. Unfortunately what? Valley Master Nya said, Unfortunately, you can't play with it for a long time. TSK. Manager Yang smacked his lips, but didn't admit it. Valley Master Nya used his hand to push the dagger back to Manager Yang and said, Ever since I heard you say that you like divine weapons, I've been paying attention to it. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to do so until last year when I heard that Boss C had obtained this nameless dagger. I immediately thought of little brother, so I specially went to weapon forging sect to ask Boss C for it. I want to give it to little brother today, so you don't have to be polite. This. Manager Yang was a little unnatural. He handed the dagger back and said, "As the saying goes, one should not accept a reward for nothing. Although we brothers have a good relationship, it is really not good for a brother to accept such a valuable item." Valley Master Nya said with a straight face, "Little brother Yang is really treating me as an outsider. I just said that you are half the master of Rejuvenation Valley. Let's not even talk about the nameless sword. Even if it is one of the 4 great swords, it can't compare to our friendship. You can rest assured and accept it." Seeing Valley Head Nya's angry expression, Manager Yang went with the flow and said, "Since Brother Nya says so, then as a brother I won't hold back. However, Brother Nya, don't treat me as an outsider. If there's anything that's troubling you, just tell me. If I can do it, I will definitely do it for you." Valley Master Nya had given away this precious short sword just for the sentence. Now that he heard it, how could he not be happy? He only said, "This matter is difficult, but it is also not difficult. It depends on whether little brother Yang is willing to do it or not. Of course, if little brother Yang feels that it is not appropriate, just tell this old man. As a brother, I will definitely not make things difficult for you." Finishing speaking, he walked to the entrance of Rejuvenation Hall and waved his hand. Not long after, 9, 11, or 12-year-old boys walked in a row from outside the hall. They all had red lips and white teeth and had a dignified appearance. The 9 boys entered the door and lined up in a row, bowing together. Looking at the 9 boys, Manager Yang had a puzzled expression. He looked at Valley Head Nya, who was walking back, and said in a low voice, "What is it? Little brother Nya, are there few people this year? There are only 9 of them. Is this what's troubling you, brother?" Valley Head Nya shook his head. "Little brother Yang, take a closer look. What do you think of these 9 boys?" All right. Since this was official business of the cult of incense, Manager Yang didn't dare to be careless. He first walked closer and carefully looked at them one by one. He even reached out to pinch their bones and nodded frequently. Then he asked about the knowledge of medicinal herbs and alchemy one by one. The 9 boys all answered fluently without any awkwardness. After the inspection, Valley Head Nya waved his hand and dismissed the 9 boys. Manager Yang then smiled. "Little brother Nya, I really envy your Rejuvenation Valley. Every time you have such talented boys, no wonder my cult of incense had to look for boys from your place." Valley Head Nya said, "Are you satisfied with these 9 boys?" "Yes, I'm very satisfied. Little brother Nya, if this is your problem, I can answer you. I can definitely help you with this." Valley Head Nya smiled bitterly. "Boss Yang is considerate. This old man thanks you. However, the matter is not that simple. Listen to me first." Then he invited Manager Yang to drink a mouthful of tea and said, "Little brother Yang just mentioned the difficulties my Rejuvenation Valley encountered last year. I presume you already know the reason." "That's right," Manager Yang said with a smile. "Although my fragrance school doesn't pay much attention to worldly affairs, we're still somewhat aware of the matter concerning Rejuvenation Valley. However, the mastermind behind this is truly well hidden. Even the people in Carefree City haven't been able to find any clues. Of course, if old brother Nya is interested, I can return to the fragrance school and report to the hallmaster. Perhaps he'll have a better method to uncover the enemy." Valley Head Nya shook his head and said, "Since it is the enemy, they will eventually show themselves. There is no need to disturb the hallmaster's meditation over such a small matter." Manager Yang also nodded and praised. "Little brother Nya is very scheming. The martial arts competition for a spouse is a plan that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. First, it draws the attention of all the forces in Jianghu to Rejuvenation Valley, so that the enemy won't dare to make a move against Rejuvenation Valley openly. Second, it has also found a good husband for little you. As a younger brother, I have no choice but to admire you." At this point, Manager Yang suddenly thought, "That's right, why hasn't little you come? No matter what, I have watched this girl grow up. Every time she comes, she calls me uncle and is very enthusiastic. How come I don't see her this time? I, as her uncle, have already come to the inner hall. Why hasn't she come to pay her respects? Ai, Valleyhead Nya sighed deeply and said, Little Yu is happy to know that you are coming. However, I said that this difficult matter is related to her. It won't be too late to have her come to pay her respects after this old man has explained the matter clearly. Manager Yang was even more surprised. Several months have passed since the martial arts competition for a spouse. Our little Yu also. Oh, that's not right. I heard from our spies that little Yu's husband seems to be quite young and hasn't married yet. That must be it. I haven't heard the news of Rejuvenation Valley holding a wedding. However, what matter is there that requires me to take action? Manager Yang was a bit confused. Valleyhead Nya muttered to himself for a moment, and then said the words that he had agreed on with you, Yan and Zhang Xiaohua. After listening to Valleyhead Nya's words, although Manager Yang's expression didn't change, his eyes flickered as if he was thinking about something. After a long time, he sighed and said, Old brother Nya, we've been friends for decades, and you have never asked me for anything. To be honest, how would I dare to agree to your request? You also know why my school of fragrance has been looking for people from you for so many years. First, it is because your Rejuvenation Valley's medicine boys have good qualifications. They are hardworking and can easily be used. It saves time and effort compared to us looking for them ourselves. Second, your Rejuvenation Valley knows everything about you, and the people you send are trustworthy. Your son-in-law is still an outsider. He only used the time it takes for 3 incense sticks to burn on the arena to win the competition. This only proves that his martial arts are good, but it doesn't prove that he is a stable and reliable person. Valleyhead Nya's expression didn't change, as if he had already expected this. He smiled apologetically and said, Old brother Yang, you are right. Reliable and trustworthy are the only criteria for us to choose medicine boys. I understand this very well. So when I wanted to recommend Xiao Yao to your sect, my Rejuvenation Valley had already investigated his background clearly. Xiao Yao came from Beta School, far in the north. Hearing this, Manager Yang frowned. Beta School? How come I have never heard of it? However, he immediately smiled and said, There are too many small sects in the Jianghu. You kill me, and I destroy you. Who knows how many sects are born and destroyed every day? Valleyhead Nya nodded and said, I have indeed never heard of this Beta School. However, although this Rin Xiaoyao is still young, he is indeed a good and chivalrous child. Manager Yang was stunned again. How do you explain this? Thus, Valleyhead Nya explained the matter of Zhang Xiaohua escorting Nya Qinyu back in full detail. When Manager Yang heard this, his face was filled with joy, and he said with a smile, I was wondering why old brother was so assured to let an outsider become your son-in-law so easily. So there is this layer of responsibility involved. If what you said is true, Ren Xiaoyao escorting Xiaoyu back to the valley for thousands of miles, this righteousness and this kindness is indeed not easy. Then he laughed coldly. Even if the Big Dipper sect is a nameless sect, as long as my fragrant cult pays attention to them, it won't be a problem. As long as they leave their names in my fragrant cult, when they return to Jiang, their Big Dipper sect will also become famous. When Valleyhead Nya heard this, his heart was filled with joy. I knew old brother would understand my thoughts. If it is not a person who can be trusted, how would I dare to casually invite him to marry into my family, and then casually recommend him to your sect? Manager Yang was not in a hurry to agree, and said, Where is Xiao Yu? Let Xiao Yu come over. I have not seen this niece for a long time. Valleyhead Nya smiled. Xiao Yu is already waiting at the door. Wait here. When he finished speaking, he walked to the door and replaced Nya Qinyu, who had been waiting at the door, with Hui Chunhao. When Nya Qinyu saw the smile on her father's face, she knew that the matter was settled. She was half happy and half worried. She forced a smile on her face and quickly walked to the front of the hall to pay her respects. When Manager Yang saw Nya Qinyu walk into the hall, he was obviously stunned. It was only when Nya Qinyu paid her respects that he woke up from a dream. He quickly got up and helped her up. He looked at her from head to toe and sighed. Xiaoyu, your father told me about your situation a few years ago. It is my fault as your uncle that I did not take it to heart. I only thought that your father was overly worried and overly concerned about his children. Now it seems that it is true. This year, Manager Yang frowned and started counting. Nie Chenyu smiled. Uncle Yang, I am already 16 years old this year. Manager Yang slapped his forehead and said, Of course, you are already a 16-year-old lady. Then he looked regretfully at Nie Chenyu's body that was still developing and said, But compared to a few years ago, there's not much change. -3. Chapter 497. Manager Yang's words made Nie Chenyu a little sad. But Manager Yang had watched her grow up and was also a member of the fragrant religion. Nie Chenyu treated him as an elder, so she could only force a smile and said, Maybe the next time Uncle Yang comes, I will have grown up. Manager Yang smiled bitterly and said, If there's a next time, I will definitely help little you see if there are any good pills when I return to the fragrant religion. Unfortunately, this is the last time I go down the mountain. You may not see me in the future. Ah? Not only Nie Chenyu, but Valley Master Nya was also shocked. Brother Yang, why is that? Manager Yang forced himself to be spirited. There is no special reason. It is just that I am old and some things are beyond my ability. It is also time for the younger generation to come out and gain experience. Brother Nya, I have been hinting again and again just now, but you didn't understand. It seems that you are really absent-minded. Valley Master Nya said awkwardly, Brother is right. This is the first time. Oh, also the last time I ask you to do something. I am very nervous. Nie Chenyu was also at the side and pleaded, This is also my wish. Uncle Yang, please fulfill my wish. Manager Yang looked at Nie Chenyu and said with a smile, Little you, don't forget. If your ideal husband doesn't go to the fragrant religion after 2 or 3 years, even if I can't get you elixirs, you can still have your wedding night and live a happy life. But if I take him away in these 2 or 3 years, you won't be able to see your husband. Can you bear to do that? Moreover, there are many female disciples in the fragrant religion. Aren't you afraid? Nie Chenyu's face was crimson and her eyes were full of hesitation. All of this was seen by Manager Yang. Nie Chenyu bowed and said, Uncle Yang, please fulfill my wish. Although I am very reluctant to let my husband leave, he is still young. If he is blindly greedy for love, even if the foundation of Rejuvenation Valley is given to him, he may not be able to develop it. Only by putting him in the fragrant religion can he really learn the essence of alchemy. When he comes back, he will be able to take over Father's mantle. As for the female disciples of the fragrant religion, since Uncle Yang is in the fragrant religion, why should I worry so much? Manager Yang heard and laughed. Little you is still so good at talking. Uncle Yang is happy. Uncle, you agree to this matter? Nie Chenyu said happily. Manager Yang shook his head. This is not a small matter. I still have to discuss it with your father carefully. Manager Yang asked Nie Chenyu to come in. Firstly, he wanted to see her. Most importantly, he wanted to see Nie Chenyu's reaction and see if Valley Master Nye was telling the truth. Since he had already verified his thoughts, he naturally had to discuss it with Valley Master Nye. Seeing this, Nie Chenyu looked at her father, bowed, and left. After Nie Chenyu left, Manager Yang shook his head and said, I understand brother's painstaking efforts. Little you looks 12 or 13 years old. It is indeed not easy to get married immediately. If Ren Xiaoyao... Oh, that's right. Just saying that Ren Xiaoyao is young. How old is he? 15 years old. Valley Master Nye replied, Oh, 15 years old. He is a good match for little you. But as a medicine boy, he is much older. That's why Brother Yang still needs to deal with them. Valley Master Nye took out a jade box from his sleeve and handed it over. Manager Yang did not understand and asked curiously, What is this? Valley Master Nye smiled. This is the carefree grass that grows in Rejuvenation Valley. Ah, Manager Yang exclaimed. Is it that 300-year-old carefree grass? But you're willing to pick it? Valley Master Nya said, Herbs are meant to be picked. If you don't pick it now, you will have to pick it sooner or later. This carefree grass is 300 years old this year. It is easy to use. Bring it to the hall master and say that it is a gift from me. I hope he can make an exception. Ah, Brother Nya, I don't want to criticize you. There are thousands of paths to success in the world. Why do you insist on the incense cult? Haven't you seen how many medicine boys that were sent to the incense cult have returned to Jianghu? As far as I know, it is only the genius from 100 years ago that was recorded in the ancient records. In the past few decades, the only one who was able to become an outer disciple was Lu Lihong. You have to know that there is still a long way to go from an outer disciple to Jianghu. Even if it is time to Jianghu, you still have to break through the array. Break through the array? Valley Master Nya asked curiously, How come I have never heard of it? Manager Yang smiled bitterly. This is the internal affairs of the incense cult. How would you know? Don't think that it is easy to travel Jianghu just because I come out every few years. The disciples of the Pill Repository Hall are different from other disciples. We have missions to go out and collect herbs and medicine boys. This mission is only temporary. If your son-in-law is able to reach the stage of Jianghu, his martial arts must be much higher than mine. Only by passing the array of the incense cult can he pass the assessment and obtain the qualifications to travel Jianghu. Then he sighed and said, Usually at this point, an outer disciple's martial arts are already very high. They are allowed to roam Jianghu and also have the qualifications to be promoted to an inner disciple. But in Chuanxiang cult, the difference in treatment and martial arts between an inner disciple and an outer disciple is too great. Every outer disciple strives to become an inner disciple as their goal. I cannot guarantee that your son-in-law will pass the assessment when he arrives at the incense cult. If he does not pass the assessment, he will have to stay in the incense cult for the rest of his life. Even if he passes the assessment, I cannot guarantee that your son-in-law will still be thinking about your position in Rejuvenation Valley or our family's little you. After all, you're not in the incense cult and do not know how great the temptation of being an inner disciple is. Valley Master Nye's face was full of astonishment as he said, I naturally know the difference between your sect's inner and outer sect disciples. Lady Peacock Kong is an inner sect disciple. She is much younger than you, but you still follow her lead and let her be the official envoy. Of course her position is higher than the inner sect disciples. But this is the first time I have heard of this. Let me think about it. In fact, there was no need to think about this. Zhang Xiaohua only wanted to enter the incense cult, and everything else had nothing to do with Rejuvenation Valley. Even if Zhang Xiaohua would not come to Rejuvenation Valley, it was still uncertain. But since Manager Yang had said this, if Valley Master Nya did not pretend to think about it, it would seem too fake. Valley Master Nya walked out for a while and returned not long after. His expression was dignified as he said, Brother Yang, I have already told Little Yu about the key points. Little Yu insists on sending Xiao Yao to the incense cult. I think this matter is settled. Brother Yang, please take good care of Xiao Yao. Also, when you return to the sect, please take good care of Xiao Yao. During his final assessment, please help him if you can and let him return as soon as possible. Manager Yang smiled bitterly. Brother Nya, what kind of role do you think I have in the sect? Coming out is just a fox borrowing the tiger's might. I have no say in the sect. Valley Master Nya cupped his hands and said, This old man knows that this matter is very difficult. Brother, please deliver these words to the Hall Master. Rejuvenation Valley will definitely not forget the Hall Master's grace. Manager Yang gritted his teeth and said, Fine. Since this is the first time Brother Nya has asked me, I cannot refuse you. In any case, this is the last time I will come to Rejuvenation Valley. The matters of Jianghu will have no fate with me in the future. Then I might as well give Brother face and agree to this matter. After speaking for a long time, Manager Yang finally nodded. Valley Master Nya was overjoyed and hurriedly bowed. He turned his head and shouted, "Little you, why haven't you come and thank Uncle Yang?" Nya Chinyu, who was outside the door, heard this and ran in with a face full of joy. She bowed deeply again and repeatedly said, "Thank you, Uncle Yang. Thank you, Uncle Yang." Manager Yang seemed to like Nya Chinyu very much. He chuckled and helped her up, saying, "This girl, what are you thanking me for? Uncle doesn't have anything to help you with. It's just that I don't know whether this is a blessing or a curse. Little you, if anything happens to your husband in the future, don't blame me." Nya Chinyu smiled and said, "Niece can't thank Uncle enough. How can I blame you? To be able to cultivate in the aroma cult and become an outer disciple is Big Brother Ren's glory. I thank Uncle Yang on behalf of Big Brother Ren." Hearing this, Manager Yang's heart moved, and he asked, "That's right. Little you, I've been here for half a day and this matter has been settled. Why hasn't your Big Brother Ren come out and let me take a look? As your uncle, should I help you check?" This. Nya Chinyu hesitated for a moment. Big Brother Rin is temporarily not in Rejuvenation Valley. Manager Yang frowned and looked at Valley Head Nya. The emissary will be leaving Rejuvenation Valley early in the morning tomorrow. If Ren Xiaoyao is not in Rejuvenation Valley, how will he depart with us? Valley Head Nya smiled apologetically again. This is also a difficult matter. However, Nephew Rin will be returning tomorrow night. If it were any other day, we would treat this as a difficult matter. However, this is Brother Yang's last visit to Rejuvenation Valley. If we delay for one more day and allow this old man to perform the duties of a host, I'm sure Lord Kong won't blame us too much. Manager Yang had a bitter smile on his face. Old Brother Nya, this isn't just one difficult task, it's two. It's really one more difficult than the other. The previous task was just to make an exception for my hall master. But this time, you're directly looking for Lord Kong. Sigh, if it were any other emissary in the past, it would be extremely difficult to change the time. However, I followed Lord Kong all the way here and feel that Lord Kong is somewhat different from the other inner disciples. He's very approachable. Anyway, this is also my last trip. Let me talk to Lord Kong tonight. Perhaps there will be some turning point. When Nya Chinyu and Valley Head Nya heard this, they were both overjoyed. Valley Head Nya was beaming with joy. He was about to obtain 5 years' worth of cultivation. How could he not be excited? At this time, Manager Yang spoke again. However, I can't guarantee whether it will succeed or not. If Lord Kong insists on leaving tomorrow morning, Brother Nya, what you said to me just now would have been in vain. Valley Head Nya nodded and said, "It should be so." Thus, Nya Chinyu retreated. Manager Yang picked up the teacup and drank a mouthful of tea. Unfortunately, before he could swallow the tea, he heard Valley Head Nya say, "Brother Yang, there's still one more thing." Pooh! Manager Yang immediately spat out the tea in his mouth, and his expression changed greatly. -3. Chapter 498. Manager Yang's expression changed greatly. He slammed the teacup on the table and frowned. "Valley Master Nya, you and I have known each other for many years. You must know that I am responsible for these two matters. If the hall master or the emissary is unhappy, there is no need to report it to a higher level. Just them alone can consign me to eternal damnation. What you said just now, I only reluctantly agreed because we have known each other for many years and this was the last time I saw you. Don't make things difficult for me again and again." Valley Master Nya heard this, and his face became lonely. He said, helplessly, "Brother Yang, I am not trying to make things difficult for you. Every family has their own problems. Listen to me." Then he told him about the powerful matter and asked, "Qian Xiu's nephew is the first on the left. Does Brother Yang remember him?" Manager Yang thought for a moment and said, "Yes, I remember him a little. He is above average." Then he narrowed his eyes and thought for a moment before asking, "Brother Nya, are you confident?" Valley Master Nya heard Manager Yang call him Brother Nya, and his heart was filled with guilt. He said, I have seen this child since he was young. I know him well. Manager Yang sighed and said, Brother Nya, you didn't have to tell me about this matter. My fragrant religion has never tested the medicine boys you sent here. We only trust in Rejuvenation Valley's reputation. Since you said it today, it can be seen that you treat me and the fragrant religion with sincerity. I will pretend you didn't say anything. How about it? Valley Master Nya shook his head and said, This is not appropriate. If I could do this, I wouldn't have said this to you. I would have done it behind your back. But this way, I am setting a trap for you and making you take the risk for no reason. If something happens in the future, you will also be guilty of negligence. My idea is that when you arrive at the fragrant religion, you should quietly tell the Hall Master about this matter and let the Hall Master decide how to deal with it. I am doing this for my daughter. AI, the hearts of parents in the world are pitiful. Manager Yang sighed, Brother Nya, you have to take out the best 100-flower wine from Rejuvenation Valley tonight. Ha! Valley Master Nya also laughed loudly. The matter that he had been worried about for months until last night had finally been resolved. How could he not be happy? He then added, Like I said before, I've already prepared your portion. However, I don't know if this is the last time you're here. Later, I'll tell them to bring you more of the best 100-flower wine. Good, good, good. Manager Yang smiled and said, This is very good. As he spoke, he took the jade box that Valley Master Nya had just placed on the table and carefully put it into his bosom. He mocked, Hall Master has been thinking about your daylily for more than 10 years, and now he finally got what he wanted. If he knew that you gave him a job, I don't know if he should be happy or angry. Valley Master Nya chuckled, but didn't say anything. The two drank tea for a while. Valley Master Nya suddenly moved closer to Manager Yang's ear and asked softly, Brother Yang, I've always had a question in my heart that I wanted to ask you. However, I didn't know if I should open my mouth. I've been holding it in for more than 10 years. If I don't ask today, I reckon that I won't have the chance to ask. Manager Yang was surprised and asked curiously, If you have something to ask, just say it. If you feel that it's inappropriate, then it's better not to ask. I reckon that I won't be able to answer you. Valley Master Nya chuckled again. But if I don't ask, I'll always feel that there's something and my heart won't be at ease. Manager Yang was annoyed, then asked, I'll see if I can answer you. Valley Master Nya raised his eyes and looked around. He whispered, I want to ask, every time your spreading fragrance cult comes to Rejuvenation Valley, why do you always stay in Worry City for a day? Can't you just come directly to my valley? Hearing this, Manager Yang's expression changed. He whispered, Brother Nya, it seems that your curiosity isn't small. Your patience is also very strong. This has been a rule for more than 10 years, and you're only asking now. However, I'll pretend that you didn't ask this question. AI, forget it. Actually, I'm also staying in Worry City with the emissary. I don't know anything. The matters in Worry City are all handled by the inner sect disciples. What they do, I don't know at all. So, whether you ask this question or not is the same. Then he whispered, These matters are related to my cult. When the new manager comes, Brother Nya, don't mention it. You'll get yourself into trouble. Valley Master Nya smiled. Thank you for the reminder, Brother Yang. I'm only asking because of our decades of friendship. AI, it's my fault for talking too much. If I didn't tell you so much, you wouldn't have caused so much trouble for me. Valley Master Nya shook his head. Even if you didn't say it, you're the most familiar with the spreading fragrance cult. If I don't look for you, who else can I look for? Manager Yang laughed. Good. Just based on brother's words. I'm worthy of our many years of friendship. Good. It's getting late and the banquet is ready. Brother, when do you think we'll start? Manager Yang thought for a moment and said, Master Kong doesn't like too many people. I don't think she'll attend this banquet. Then he waved his hand and said, Forget it. I'll do it to the end. Brother Nya, you wait here. I'll go ask Master Kong and explain this matter to her. That way, you and I can have a drink to our heart's content." Valley Master Nya was overjoyed when he heard this. However, he whispered, "Brother Yang, this is the first time I've seen Master Kong. What hobbies does she have? My Rejuvenation Valley can prepare some gifts." Manager Yang waved his hand and said, "That won't be necessary. Master Kong is an inner sect disciple. She has always been noble and unsullied. She doesn't care about worldly affairs. If you give her something, she'll be disgusted. You just need to pick up some fruits and vegetables from Rejuvenation Valley and give them to her." Valley Master Nya smiled and said, "Then I'll do as Brother Yang says. I'll first have the servants prepare the banquet and then give the fresh and precious fruits and vegetables to Master Kong." Manager Yang nodded and walked out of Rejuvenation Hall. He had someone take him to see Master Kong. Seeing Manager Yang leave, Nya Chinyu couldn't wait to run into Rejuvenation Hall and asked, "Father, has everything been arranged?" Valley Master Nya wiped the sweat off his forehead and let out a long breath. He said, as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders, 10 stops have become 9 stops. Nya Chinyu asked curiously, "What's the remaining 1 stop?" "Valley Master," Nya didn't answer directly. "Sigh, at that time I was thinking too lightly. I thought that with my friendship with your Uncle Yang, I would definitely be able to help Nephew Ren. Now it seems that it's not that simple. If it wasn't for the fact that this was your Uncle Yang's last time in Jianghu, I don't think he would have agreed." Nya Chinyu also had a lingering fear. "Yes, Father. We didn't think that it would be so difficult to be an outer sect disciple in spreading fragrance cult. If you're not an outer sect disciple, you can't even take half a step out of spreading fragrance cult. We were so naive to think that the hall master of Spreading Pill Hall would let go of him. We almost couldn't justify ourselves. Haha. It's also Nephew Ren's good fortune that allowed him to encounter such a fortuitous encounter. Otherwise, it would be unimaginable. I reckon that Nephew Ren would definitely complain that we left him in this valley for many days." Nya Chinyu shook her head. "He won't. Brother Ren is the most considerate. If he knew of our difficulties, he would definitely understand." "Yes, you're right. However, what we need to consider now is whether Lady Kong will agree to stay in our Rejuvenation Valley for 1 more day tomorrow. If she can't," Nya Chinyu was resolute and decisive. "If she can't, let Brother Ren leave with Uncle Yang tomorrow. Although the Crimson Flame Pill is important, Brother Ren's matter is even more important. We can't delay other people's matters because of our selfish desires." Valley Master Nya smiled and said, "That's what I think too." Nya Chinyu blinked her eyes. Brother Ren still has a set of ingredients for the Crimson Flame Pill. If he can't make it this time, he will definitely send Father a set of completed pills next time. Don't you think so? You little girl, don't say these words. It makes it seem like your father is scheming against others. That's right. This is an open conspiracy. Why can't I say it? Okay. An open conspiracy is an open conspiracy. You should quickly take a look at the fruits and vegetables for Lady Kong. Serve her well. It's better than any open conspiracy." Nya Chinyu smiled in response and ran out cheerfully, leaving behind Valley Head Nya's loving gaze. Just as Nya Chinyu walked out, the anxious Nya Chinchyo and Chang Sheng walked in at the same time at Lord Kong's place in a clean and simple hall. Lord Kong did not sit on a chair. Instead, he laid out a huge white blanket in the hall and placed a low tea table on top of the blanket. Lord Kong simply sat on the blanket, and from time to time, he would pick up the fruits on the tea table to taste. Manager Yang stood respectfully at one side and told him in detail about how Valley Master Nya wanted his son-in-law to act as a medicine boy. However, Lady Kong said lazily, "This is your Pill Expansion Hall's matter. It has nothing to do with me. Whether you did the right thing or not will be decided by your hall master. Why do you need to report it to me?" Soon after, he seemed to have realized something. Oh, according to the tip-off, his son-in-law is only 14 or 15 years old. However, his body is as tall as an adult. You're afraid that I will find out something and question you. Manager Yang smiled and said, You are the emissary of our sect. These matters must be reported to you. Lady Kong waved his hand. I don't have that kind of interest. Just do what you need to do. Oh, that's right. This young man actually had the ability to defeat soaring dragon mountain villas, sword prince. His martial arts are also quite good. Call him over and let me see. Manager Yang secretly complained. I'll let Lady Kong know that the martial arts of the people of Jianghu are just three-legged cats. Their fame is all exaggerated. They can't even compare to our outer sect disciples. Think about it. A 14 or 15-year-old youth can defeat the famous sword prince of Jianghu. How much true martial arts do you think this sword prince has? This Rin Xiaoyao also comes from a nameless small sect. How can his martial arts be compared to Lady Kong's discerning eyes? Hearing this, Lady Kong frowned. -3. Chapter 499. Hearing this, Lord Kong frowned and laughed. Hee, I forgot that the outer disciples of the cult of fragrance are all powerful in the pugilistic world. What's there to see about a minor disciple from a nameless sect? All right, I'm not going. Manager Yang secretly let out a sigh of relief and smiled apologetically. However, I did come here to discuss something with Lord Kong. Speak. Manager Yang couldn't see Lord Kong's face hidden behind the veil, nor did he know her emotions. He only probed. This is Lord Kong's first time out, but it's my last time out. I have been friends with the Valley Lord of Rejuvenation Valley for nearly 40 years. When he heard that I wouldn't be coming to Rejuvenation Valley in the future, he was very sad and insisted on making me stay here for one more day. I couldn't reject his good intentions, so I came to discuss with Lord Kong. I hope that you can empathize with Valley Lord Nye and my feelings. Moreover, this is your first time out. The scenery of Rejuvenation Valley is beautiful, and it's like spring all year round. Lord Kong didn't wait for him to finish and waved her hand. No need to say more. No matter how beautiful the scenery of Rejuvenation Valley is, how can it compare to the cult of fragrance? Although it's like spring all year round, how can it compare to our cult of fragrance? Hearing this, Manager Yang's heart shrank, and he thought to himself, Marshal Nye, oh Marshal Nye, it's not that I don't want to help you. Looking at the situation, I can only let you down. Manager Yang was about to speak when he heard. Although this is my first time, it doesn't mean there won't be a second time. It doesn't matter if I don't see Rejuvenation Valley. However, you won't have a next time. Moreover, 40 years, how many 40 years does a person have? Seeing that you have a close relationship with Valley Lord Nye, it's a happy thing in your life to have such an old friend. If I were to stop you for no reason, wouldn't I be too inconsiderate? Let your hall master say I'm petty? Go. You'll be leaving early in the morning the day after tomorrow. Don't forget. Manager Yang was overjoyed when he heard this and bowed. Thank you, Lord Kong. Lord Kong waved her hand, indicating for him to leave. Seeing Manager Yang leave excitedly, Lord Kong murmured, 40 years, it's enough to have one confidant. Her tone was incomparably lonely. Inside the Rejuvenation Hall, Valley Master Nye looked at Nye Qianxiu and Changsheng, who rushed in with a cold expression. Seeing this, Nye Qianxiu didn't care. She walked forward and asked, Father, has nephew Changsheng's matter been settled? Valley Master Nye coldly looked at them and didn't hide anything. It's already done. Your Uncle Yang agreed to take him in as a medicine boy. Hearing this, the two of them were overjoyed. Thank you, Father, for your help. Valley Master Nye nodded. Qianxiu, Changsheng, this is the first and last time. Remember this. Remember, Father. Something like this will never happen again. Valley Master Nye continued. Although I have seen their strength since I was young, it was not raised by Rejuvenation Valley. I have already told your Uncle Yang that if he finds anything strange, he will immediately deal with it according to the sect rules of the fragrant religion. There is no need to consider Rejuvenation Valley's reaction. When Chang Sheng heard this, his expression changed slightly. Father-in-law, please rest assured. Chang is the boy's nephew. How could the boy push him into the fire pit? I'm sure nothing will happen. That's good. From now on, Chang is a medicine boy of the fragrant religion. You can't casually see him anymore. Yes, father. Daughter understands. The husband and wife looked at each other and left Rejuvenation Hall together. Valley Master Nia's expression was somewhat cold. Looking at the two of them leaving, his eyes flickered. It was unknown what he was thinking about. When the two of them disappeared, he gritted his teeth and seemed to have made a decision. He put down the teacup in his hand and got up to leave quickly. But halfway there, he patted his forehead and turned to sit back in his chair. His expression was relaxed. Valley Master Nia made a hesitant appearance in Rejuvenation Hall. In Rejuvenation Valley's inner pill room, Zhang Xiaohua was still leisurely. When he saw the messenger of the fragrant religion arrive, he knew that his time in Rejuvenation Valley was limited. Whether or not Valley Master Nia could persuade the fragrant religion to take him in as a medicine boy, he would have to leave Rejuvenation Valley with them. And the only thing he had promised Rejuvenation Valley was the Crimson Flame pill in front of him. Therefore, he became more diligent and wanted to refine the pill as soon as possible. After all, according to Valley Master Nia's words, the fragrant religion would set off tomorrow morning as usual. Unfortunately, the way of alchemy was to progress step by step. Any shortcuts would not work. The jade slip recorded that the Crimson Flame pill needed 13 days to gestate. That was not even half a day less. At least in Zhang Xiaohua's consciousness, he could vaguely see the primordial qi brewing in the pill that was gradually taking shape. There was also a little bit of bright starlight. All of this showed that the Crimson Flame pill had not been successfully gestated. Zhang Xiaohua was still scratching his head about this starlight. He thought hard for a long time, but still could not figure out the reason. However, the slight movement and arrangement of the starlight faintly matched with the star atlas of the heavenly Tao that he had come into contact with. This was something he had discovered by chance when he was comprehending the heavenly Tao. Therefore, he faintly felt that this starlight only had benefits and no harm. Zhang Xiaohua was about to comprehend the incantation when he felt a movement in his heart. He released his consciousness and saw Nia Qinyu running towards the inner valley with a mixed expression on her face. Sigh. Zhang Xiaohua could not help but sigh and stood up. Nia Qinyu ran very quickly and anxiously. When she reached the alchemy chamber, she was already out of breath. When she saw the door of the alchemy chamber, she couldn't help but stagger and fall forward. Nia Qinyu couldn't help but cry out. But at this moment, a familiar figure appeared at the door of the alchemy chamber. It was Zhang Xiaohua, who she didn't care about. Therefore, at this moment, Nia Qinyu's heart was at peace, because she knew that her big brother Rin would definitely not let her come to any harm as long as she was in front of him. Sure enough, Zhang Xiaohua seemed to know that Nia Qinyu would fall. The moment she flashed out of the pill room, she immediately sped up and floated towards Nia Qinyu like a floating cloud. At the last moment when Nia Qinyu fell to the ground, she stretched out her hands to support Nia Qinyu. Feeling the warmth of her hands, Nia Qinyu could not help but close her eyes. How she wished that this moment could last forever. However, when Zhang Xiaohua helped her stand steadily, the hands immediately left her. A gentle voice was heard. "Little fishy, are you frightened? Don't be so anxious next time. I'm in the pill room. Where can I go?" "Yes, big brother Rin. You're in the pill room now, but what about in the future? Where will you be in the future? Where can I see you?" Nia Qinyu closed her eyes and let out a silent cry in her heart. Seeing that Nia Qinyu's eyes were still closed and her eyelashes were trembling slightly, Zhang Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. However, she immediately said softly, little fishy, is there anything you need from me?" Nia Qinyu opened her eyes reluctantly and looked at Zhang Xiaohua with hidden bitterness. She forced a smile and said, "Congratulations, big brotherin. Father has already told Uncle Yang of the incense cult about you. He has agreed to recommend you to be a medicine boy in the incense cult." Zhang Xiaohua was not surprised. She nodded and said, "Then I have to thank Uncle Nye and you, little fishy. Just that, when can I leave?" Then she looked at the pill room behind her and said regretfully, "If I leave tomorrow, this batch of crimson flame pills that were about to be refined will all be wasted." Nye Qinyu lowered her head and said, "Then can Big Brotherin not go to the incense cult for the sake of pills?" Zhang Xiaohua thought for a while and said apologetically, "This, if it's something else, maybe it's still negotiable. But for this, I really can't." "Nye," Qinyu said again, "just that? I don't know what will happen in the future." Zhang Xiaohua looked at the azure sky above Rejuvenation Valley and said with disappointment, "Everything is fleeting. It's better to forget each other in the pugilistic world than to help each other in times of need." After hearing this, Nye Qinyu could no longer hold back. She burst into tears and ran out while covering her face. Seeing that she was far away, she slipped again. This time, Zhang Xiaohua could not help her in time. Nye Qinyu, who had fallen to the ground, got up from the ground. She did not even have time to pat the dirt off her body. She only turned around to look at the lonely figure in front of the pill room. Wiping her tears, she walked away quickly again. Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense followed Nye Qinyu for a long time. Along the way, many disciples of Rejuvenation Valley looked at Nye Qinyu in astonishment and made way for her. However, Nye Qinyu did not notice and walked numbly and blankly towards the peach forest. It was only when Little Orange saw that his miss was acting strangely and ran out of the peach blossom nunnery that Zhang Xiaohua retracted his divine sense. Looking at the fleeting clouds indifferently, Zhang Xiaohua himself could not explain the feelings in his heart. If he said that he only treated Nye Qinyu as a little girl and did not have any other thoughts in his heart, even Zhang Xiaohua himself would not believe it. However, if he had to promise this little girl something, say some ambiguous words, or paint a beautiful picture, Zhang Xiaohua was unwilling. He really did not know what he should do. After leaving for so many years, he did not know when he could return to Rejuvenation Valley again. Instead of giving her some hope, he might as well give her some despair. Was this the legendary fate? Zhang Xiaohua rubbed his nose. He really wanted to ask himself and figure out the answer. Unfortunately, he was only a boy and a boy in the spring and the rainy season. How could he tell the difference between the two? Perhaps after a long time, when he looked back and recalled the dreamlike memories, he would be able to realize the true feelings within. However, at that time, how many feelings were still waiting? How many feelings were there to look forward to? Nye Qinyu was brought back to the Peach Blossom Nunnery by Little Orange. Without waiting for Little Orange to say anything, Nye Qinyu threw herself onto the bed and buried her head in the blankets. She cried out without hesitation, as if she wanted to vent all the feelings that she had suppressed for such a long time. No matter how Little Orange tried to persuade or comfort her, it was of no use. For a moment, Little Orange panicked. He warned the others and went straight to Rejuvenation Hall. Vote for me. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. -3.